Microphones on and pull them forward when you speak. I'd like to call the August 29th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme.
Here.
Mr. Screbutenis.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Here.
Mr. McPartlin, I believe, is not here yet. Mr. Darpino.
Here.
Ms. Shenfield is excused and absent. Ms. Gold.
Present.
Ms. Strang.
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Okay, let's give it a second. Is Mr. McPartlin, are you online? All right, we'll give it a second, and then after public hearings, if we don't hear from him, we'll have you come take a seat, okay?
Sure.
All right, so first up, well, now we have the approval of the minutes from the August 8th, 2022 meeting. Have a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Mr. Screbutenis for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. D'Arpino. Anybody have any changes or comments on the minutes from August 8th?
I just lost the sound.
From August 8th. Can you hear me, Clark?
Oh, sorry. I thought there was feedback coming from there. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Clark?
I can hear you now, yes.
Very good. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments or changes to the minutes? I have none. Okay, all those in favor of approval of the minutes from the August 8th, 2022 meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the August 8th meeting minutes are approved. We have two public hearings tonight. First public hearing is on Empire Drive, and that's application for approval of a plot plan for a two-lot, that's a minor subdivision. Mr. Henry, would you please read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to section 187-7 of the Code of the Town of Niskayuna and the applicable provisions of New York Town Law, section 276, a public hearing will be held by the Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna in the Town Board Meeting Room at 1 Niskayuna Circle on the 29th day of August, 2022 at 7 p.m. to consider an application from Robert Dorman for a two-lot minor subdivision at the parcel located Stub Road off of Empire Drive in the Town of Niskayuna, tax parcel number 61-1-33.2. The property is located within the R1 low-density residential zoning district. The Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna will hear all persons interested during the aforementioned public hearing. By order of the Planning Board of the Town of Niskayuna, New York, Kevin A. Walsh, Chairman, Planning Board and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Henry. And I have a representative of the applicant. Yeah, would you please come forward and just for the public, just give a quick overview of the proposal, and then I'll open the floor for the public.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Owen Spolster with CT Mail. Again, the proposal is for a minor subdivision off the Stub Road, south of Empire Drive. The existing lot is approximately 3.8 acres in size. The two lots, lot one will be 1.8 acres, which is the lot to the west, and lot two will be about 2.0 acres, which is the lot to the right. We've been in front of the planning board a couple meetings already. We addressed several comments that the board had, and we submitted a new plan showing what we have here with the common driveway, with the two separate driveways coming right and separating right at the stub and going to the houses, the respective houses on each lot. That's, it's a very simple.
Public water,
proposal.
public sewer. Public water and public sewer.
Yeah, public water and public sewer.
And,
We had talked about different configuration, maybe a common road going down the center, but this was preferred by the town and the DPW. So that's what you have in front of us today.
okay. And both lots are conforming to the R1 Royal Resident or R1 Residential District. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So with that being heard, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding Empire Drive, this two-lot minor subdivision, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. So the public hearing for Empire Drive is now open.
Hi, Teresa Zelensky, 77 Empire. So I have a couple of concerns and want to understand how we object through this process as well. If you guys could share that with us now or at the end, that'd be great. But first off, the biggest concern, many of us are really concerned about the water table disruption this brings. There are a lot of current issues in Niskayuna, a lot of brown water drain hole issues on this street today. They currently have not been addressed. Our neighbors diagonal from us just had flooding. The water runs off, so it starts kind of back at the school and it runs down the hill. We're at the tail end. It actually runs down through the back of our yard, really considered wetlands behind everything that we're going to build. So this is really going to make that worse, and we're really trying to understand what that brings. With the damage that we already see, and this making it worse, we'd love to know what you're going to do about it. I don't know if there's like an the normal MS4 storm permit that's been given. I'd love to know the water table changes here, any disruption in water waste and sewage as well.
Okay. It's on the agenda for discussion later tonight. We won't get into, engineering during the public hearing, but it's on the agenda, and we'll have the applicant address some of your comments later. Okay?
Okay. And I'm not sure, it sounds like maybe this has been discussed ahead of time, or maybe this is just the first time the public has heard about it, but it sounds like the board has been discussing this for a while.
It's been on the agenda for a couple of meetings, and we called for the public hearing for tonight to get input. Yep.
The other thing is we've moved here with the assumption that these were wetlands and could not be built, because we actually looked into it when my husband and I moved here. And with the amount we pay in taxes in Niskayuna, I'm actually pretty shocked we're trying to squeeze 2 lots in between 2 streets that are directly disrupting 19 houses aligned to these 2 lots. That's a kind of a lot just to squeeze in 2 houses to directly align disruption to 19 houses if you count aligned to those 2 lots.
Could you show me is your house on that diagram, just to have an idea where you live?
Well, if you count ours is here,
Okay, thank you.
if you count all of these all around here, all the way through.
Yeah, I just wanted to see where you were at. Okay, thank you.
So I also would like to understand, is Colony getting a notification on their board? And do you guys work together with their board on this whole project, or how does that work? Because the houses that are on the backside are not in Niskayuna, they're all in Colony.
Understood.
So how do you guys work with
We'll talk
Colony?
about it later during the discussion portion of the meeting.
Okay. So is there going to be a secondary hearing when all these are talked about and we can see the report? How do we get the reports for the MS4 stormwater
Well,
and all the?
Again, we'll talk about that, whether it's required later on today. And if you can't stay, it'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch a video, anybody, and you'll be able to contact the planning office for any documentation that's available that you have a right to see. Okay?
The last question I have is the tree line. So I see that there's a proposal from the builder on the tree line, which are squiggly lines that are around the houses. But is it correct that the people who buy those lots can actually clear out the trees all the way to the end of those lots?
Again, we'll talk about it later. We're not going to get into
Okay,
back
so-
and forth questions. Okay? I got all your notes here. I got all the questions that you have. All right? It's a public hearing, so it's a opportunity for the public to be heard, and we'll document what you say. So thank you.
So my name is Kimberly Stryker. I live on 69 Empire Drive. And really just kind of some redundant statements to what Teresa has stated. For me to hear that we've already had a few meetings and we weren't aware of it, it seems like some decisions have already kind of come down the pipeline. And obviously that's a little bit concerning for us. We would have liked to be aware. And I think, my next statement is really just a simple statement from a homeowner standpoint. I realize that we want more tax money. I realize what, that's involved. But 8 years ago, my husband and I chose this house with our 5 children distinctly for the aspect that we were getting ready to build a house and pick other properties. And we chose this property because we didn't have a house right behind us. And our property right now with that house on the right, you're basically saying our little tiny backyard, and it is very tiny, I'm on top of another person's property now. And we could have built a house in Niskayuna, which we diverted to. when we came about this house and felt that it was the right choice for us, but it was very intentional with the regards to the woods behind our property. And you're taking that away and putting us right on top of another house. And that's a concern for us. And again, I realize business is business and money is money, but it's just a concern with the amount of taxes we pay for children in the Niskayuna School District. It's just a concern for us that we could have chose anywhere to live, and we chose that house for that reason. Was a huge selling, reality for us and an attribute for us. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else present here that wishing to be heard regarding the public hearing for Empire Drive?
My name is Rui Hatana, and I live in the 73 Empire Drive. Just next between them. And we are in the same builder. For me, I moved out in 10 years ago. I think we are kind of like the first or the second phase. And we asked Marini, the builder, a few times to confirm that behind us, there is nothing can be built. They said, no, there is something like nature land. I don't know what's the term. I think Teresa knows that. And we tell Brooke, which is the Marini, to make sure that they said yes. Behind us, it will be no anything to be built. It is really disappointment that whatever that they said is not true. Really upsetting.
I can't speak for your discussion with the builder, obviously.
If they remember, I even asked them, can we buy the land then, just to make sure that nobody we build that? Have we been offered then? If we want to buy the land, so nobody can build anything behind us. We live here. The one that really is thought and think is here, but here, 70 feet, all they have to be there.
Yeah, we need
You
you
don't
to,
have privacy.
we need you at the microphone for the recording, please.
So it's really upsetting. And I heard that the two families think about tax money. We already pay tax money a lot. I live in Niskayuna. This year is 33 years. 33 years. Before I lived in Knowles Road. Really for the tax money? Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Stryker. My wife Kim already spoke, but I think for me, it's more kind of what we already said. But when you look at that plan, you're literally squeezing two houses between already two subdivisions. I mean, it's just crowbarring them in there. I mean, on paper, it kind of looks ridiculous that you've got two tracks and you're just throwing in two. So for me, again, like my wife said, we purchased a house.
Okay, anybody here in the town hall like to speak regarding the public hearing? Laura, do you know if we have anybody online? If anybody can hear me out there, do we have anybody online wishing to speak regarding the Empire Drive proposed subdivision? Public hearing. You receive any,
Yeah, wait, let me just read the name. It may be the other subject. It may be the other public hearing, but
sure.
How you doing?
Good.
My name's Dan Woolley. I'm 77 Empire Drive as well. My wife Teresa. I have concerns mainly of sewage and water runoff. I know when we moved in there was some stipulations that were done by the builder. You can't really see them on the plans that were up here before, but adjacent to that property, just downhill from Birchwood School as it comes towards Empire Drive, there was going to be a swale put there, but Marini decided to put in basically a sewer drain going to the retention pond. That mitigated a lot of the water runoff. That was very smart on their behalf. I know for a fact that there was kind of some litigation back and forth between Niskayuna and the builder that was done. And so instead of putting the swale in, they put the drain in, which circumvented, disrupting many more houses. And instead of only disrupting maybe 3 or 4. So I'm really concerned about additional, runoff with water. I know town of Niskayuna has some issues with plumbing, so we'll just leave it at that. But I don't want to reiterate everything that has already been said, but let's try to be smart and deal with, the drainage issue.
Okay, thank you.
So Daniel Schmidt, I do see you online and your address is in the vicinity of Empire Drive. So are you able to unmute yourself and speak tonight?
Hey, good evening. Yes, I mean, I share the concerns of the neighbors. It would definitely disrupt our view towards these 2 houses. Currently, we have a beautiful tree line there. So this is definitely going to change. Other than that, again, as I said, I share the concerns of my neighbors there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schmidt. And what's your address, Mr. Schmidt?
52 Empire Drive,
Thank you.
right across the stop road.
Thanks. Anyone else wishing to be heard, either here in Town Hall or online regarding Empire Drive public hearing? Now I'm going to close the public hearing. Oh, there we go.
My name is Jane Hua, 73 Empire Drive, same with Rudy Suhata Hatana. So my concern, first, I agree with Dan, the drainage. When I first went to look at the lot, in the backyard, there was actually water, there was snake. Even now it's dry, but we see when water come in, the flooding, water really can go down all the way to the pond. If you build a house, you level it up, I think it could cause the water to build up in the passage. Second concern is the natural environment, because we have the piece of forest, we see animals, deers, birds, build another 2 houses, really get rid of the forest. It's like we are living really box next box. So we want to reserve this natural environment. We have a piece of corner. The builder told us we cannot do anything. It's natural reserve. So I don't know how this natural reserve play in this decision to build another 2 houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call for the public hearing for Empire. Anybody else online or in Town Hall? Okay, hearing or seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing for Empire Drive. Thank you. Again, it's on the agenda for discussion in a few minutes. All right. Next up is another public hearing, the public hearing for 2239 Van Antwerp Road. And this is also an application for a 2-lot minor subdivision. Mr. Henry, would you please read that notice?
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to section 187-7 of the Code of the Town of Niskayuna and the applicable provisions of New York Town Law, section 276, a public hearing will be held by the Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna in the Town Board Meeting Room at 1 Niskayuna Circle on the 29th day of August, 2022 at 7 p.m. to consider an application from Elizabeth A. Ryan and Joan M. Ryan for a 2-lot minor subdivision at 2239 Van Antwerp Road in the Town of Niskayuna. The property is located within the R1 low-density residential zoning district. The Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna will hear all persons interested during the aforementioned public hearing. By order of the Planning Board of the Town of Niskayuna, New York, Kevin A. Walsh, Chairman, Planning Board and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Henry. We have a representative of the applicant. Please come to the microphone and give us a brief overview of the project on Van Antwerp.
Thank you. My name is Pat Jerose and I work for Van Gilder Associates. I'm here tonight on behalf of Elizabeth and Joanne Ryan to answer any questions you have for the proposed 2-lot subdivision at 2239 Van Antwerp Road. These are conforming lots and will include public water and sewer. The 2.08 acre property will be subdivided into a 0.56 acre parcel and a 1.53 acre parcel. The items that were discussed at the last meeting were added to the map as requested. These items include the 10-foot multi-use path, the sewer easement, and the 25-foot grading limit buffer to the wetlands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the public hearing for 2239 Van Antwerp Road is open, similar to Empire, right out here front on Van Antwerp. So anyone wishing to be heard regarding this public hearing, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. So the public hearing is open for Van Antwerp. Anybody here wishing to speak? Anybody online wishing to speak regarding Van Antwerp proposed subdivision? Any emails, Laura, or anything? No? Okay, we're hearing or seeing no one. I'm going to close the public hearing on Van Antwerp. Thank you, everyone. Before we move the privilege of the floor, Mr. McPartland, have you joined us? No? I'm going to ask Ms. Strang to take a seat up here.
Of course.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move the, let's see, privilege of the floor. So anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, you come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. And this is regarding any planning and zoning matters. Anybody? Anybody online? Laura, do you have any letters received or?
Yeah, I did receive a message from Jonai Trumpler. As a member of the Niskayuna community, I would like to give my support to the idea of the outdoor seating with umbrellas, lights, and bicycle parking. It would be a great addition to our town. Thank you. And then I'm unsure about this one, but it's very similar. This is from Paulina Manzo. Just wanted to say how great the front of the shopping center is by the co-op. It's great to be able to walk up there and cross Crescent Road without looking three ways for cars. It looks fantastic too. Thanks for putting the time and effort into getting this project done. Those are the two comments I had.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Anybody else? Privilege of the floor? Okay, hearing or seeing no one, we'll close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move right to new business. Under new business, we have a few resolutions. First resolution being Resolution 2022-19, a resolution for site plan approval of new signage for Hillcrest Village Apartments at 1515 Hillside Avenue. Resolution, along with the packet, was posted on our website. I'll just summarize the resolution. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed waiver for signage would have a minimum negative effect on aesthetics, is compatible with existing facades, and does hereby grant said waiver as outlined above, and be it further resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves this site plan. And the two waivers that are included in this packet are waivers for sign number 2 and sign number 5. They're both directional signs. One waiver is for 8 square feet above the minimum or above the requirement, and the other one is for 4 square feet. Do I have a motion for approval for the resolution? Moved by Mr. Screbutennis for approval. Do I have a second?
I second.
And seconded by Mr. Laflamme, and we'll have some discussion. You have the applicant online tonight?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, thank you. Any concerns? I took a look at the signs. I have no concerns. Obviously, it would have been nice to follow the process, but it is what it is, and I think where the signs are located, minimal impact by exceeding the minimum requirement is my view. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I have a serious concern about replacing the designation of west with a series of numbers on what is during the various rush hours a very busy street. We're not quite back to pre-COVID levels of traffic, but it's gotten a lot busier in the past year than it was during the major portion of COVID. People can read a word or a number fairly quickly. When you put a series of numbers together, like 10, 20, 30, etc., it takes more space, and it's also harder for most people to really process through their mind. And I'm worried that we will be setting up chain reaction rear end collisions. So I can't in good conscience vote in favor of this. I would suggest as an alternative something like the 10s, because the west part is all the even numbers, the east part is the fives. I can see not wanting to, continue with the east and west. I can understand not wanting to go odds and evens, but something that's easier for people to process so they don't cause accidents would be much better in my mind. People could get off the busy road and into the private road of the two different developments and take the time to understand what they're reading. And I'm really worried that we're going to have accidents as a result of the change to the whole series of numbers. That just goes back to my training and learning theory and all of that good stuff.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, there I am. I think they could have achieved what they wanted to achieve if they stayed within the rules of the code. And so for that reason, and also for the lack of following what we should have done to begin with, I am not going to vote in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. The only additional comment that I have, and it's not regarding the signage, but I just took a look at the site down there. There's several dumpsters. I know we have a representative or the management team for the site, and I took a look specifically at the east location toward the rental office to take a look at that sign. And there are several dumpsters there that have some screening around them. But I got to tell you, there's more garbage on the ground than it's in the dumpster all around. The dumpsters are full. Can't be a good thing for rentals. It can't be a good thing for either the environment or for the potential of drawing critters. So I'd like to, make a comment that as we go forward with this, would expect that the management team take a look at the dumpsters and clean up the site. And if the dumpsters aren't being emptied enough to support the need, either get a bigger dumpsters or change the scheduling so that they get emptied appropriately.
Understood. We will make that note and I will speak to the area vice president and we will get that addressed.
If you need some pictures, we gladly take you some pictures and send them to you.
Yeah, can you just identify yourself for the minutes?
Sure. This is Lauren Werkheiser, design director from Morgan Properties.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would have liked to see code compliant signs. And
They're
I
in-
will agree-
Yeah, I think they're included in the pack. They have sketches that show the relative size in them.
No, I meant in terms of,
Oh, in terms of actual implementation.
in terms of actual implementation. And I do agree that, the signs are actually kind of wordy with those numbers. I mean, not wordy, it's numbery. So without actually seeing what code compliance signs would look like, right, I'm also finding this a bit.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no further discussion. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Scrебutanis?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Nay.
Mr. Darpino?
Nay.
Ms. Gold?
Nay.
Ms. Strang?
Nay.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. So it looks like we had, 4 nays? Is that?
4 nays, 3 ayes.
All right, so the resolution does not pass. I guess the applicant's going to need to take some action regarding the 2 signs that aren't compliant. My view would be work in progress. Take consideration of, obviously the signs aren't going to come down in the meantime. So take a listen to, what the board had to say regarding what's on the signs and the size of the signs. And we'll work through it as a work in progress, getting those 2 signs approved or some variation of those 2 signs approved.
Yeah, so the applicant will have to resubmit a package for us to discuss at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
exactly.
Hopefully it's a code compliant package. Thank you.
Any questions from the applicant? If you have anything, you can always call the planning office or email the planning office also, okay?
Yeah, I'll get with Clark and we'll reconfigure it.
right.
can reapply.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next up is Resolution 2022-20, a resolution for site plan approval for placing a Chase Bank ATM machine in the ShopRite Plaza parking lot. Again, it was posted, and I'll just summarize. Resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed waivers would have a minimum negative effect on aesthetics and does hereby grant said waivers as outlined above, and be it further resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan with the following conditions. 1, prior to completion of the building permit, replace 21 dead trees on the parcel as identified by the Niskiuna Tree Council and Planning Office. 2, prior to completion of the building permit, stripe a crosswalk in the 4 locations as identified by the Planning Office. 3, prior to completion of the building permit, restripe the parking lot parking spaces in the parcel. And 4, prior to completion of the building permit, repair the potholes in the parking lot and access road. And the waivers include, or actually, one waiver for the signage, and that's, or 2 waivers. One's for the LED light. Our code doesn't recognize LED lighting, it needs to be updated. So proposal includes an LED lamp fixture, and the logo for, I believe, Chase Bank is 100% logo, which exceeds the minimum requirement, or minimum allow, which is 30%. But we have in the past allowed that to go because of corporate identity. Okay, so I have a motion for approval of the resolution. Moved by Mr. Khan for approval. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Laflamme. And discussion.
I had inquired about snow removal, mainly because I just want the person responsible for property maintenance to acknowledge that they really can't go dumping the snow over that way now, and they need to make an alternative arrangement. And I didn't see anything in the packet. Possibly I missed it, but I didn't see anything in the packet on that. Because I have seen the snow stacked right where this is going to be.
Yes, this is Tom Riley for the applicant. We submitted a response to that. I'm not sure that it was distributed with the packet. So the snow removal was noted in the last discussion that where this area of the lot was previously used for storage and removal. So I spoke with the landlord on that, and she worked with their contractor. They've identified other areas that the snow can be pushed to. They made an agreement with their contractor now, and they don't see it becoming an issue now or in the future.
Thank you.
Do you know
You're
where
welcome.
the location of the snow is going to get moved to?
I don't have a diagram of the parking lot with that specific information, no.
Just got a question for on the conditions for planning office. On number 3, restripe the parking lots in the parcel. So that's the parcel associated only with where Chase Bank is going? Is there that the whole ShopRite parcel? Which part?
No, because there's actually 3 different owners, and I don't think that the planning board could compel the other 2 owners to stripe the parking lot.
That's what I
Yeah,
understand. So this is for the ownership of that parcel for where Chase Bank is going?
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify that. And then for the, it's the potholes in the parking lot. Let's see. No, I guess that's straightforward. So it's the same thing for the holes to be repaired.
Yeah, it would all have to pertain to this
Okay,
parcel.
just wanted to make sure.
I'm still working on the snow removal. I would not want to see that taking up more of the parking, given this particular development is going to take some parking out, and overall the site is somewhat deficient, not majorly, but somewhat deficient. So I really would be curious where they plan to put that snow. And I would also note there's always the option of trucking it off site. I know that's expensive, but if we have a really rotten winter, that might be a necessary step. And maybe we could have, if we can't get that pinned down tonight, perhaps we can have something in the resolution that addresses it.
So we could propose that they submit a snow storage map to us, for planning department approval, as a follow-up. And the planning department can follow through on those concerns, or we could, we could just specify that snow storage shall not take up any additional parking spots.
Wasn't there an expectation of snow removal with the original development that would continue to remain?
Yeah.
But they've used this area for snow storage.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to, or that it was part of the original plan.
Yeah, so the snow storage is complicated because there's snow storage removal cross easements across all three of the parcels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that, the applicant in this parcel, has got to make the Chase Bank work. So they got to take consideration of where the snow goes,
Tendency.
in attendance. I mean, so I would expect, I haven't looked in the past several years when we've had a good snowfall, whether any parking spots were taken up personally. So, I trust that the applicant will allow the site to function, which is their goal, is my opinion. But
I'd be happy with review by the planning department.
does anybody else take that position?
I think making it aware that we're aware and that come winter, they thought about it a little before winter. That's not a bad thing. A reminder of the change would be good for them to have. And if we at least have it noted, that would be helpful. But to require it may not be part
So
of it.
maybe the applicant, representative of the applicant here is this discussion now. Do we need to actually have a condition that says that? I'll leave it to the board. I don't care one way or another.
And there was a related issue that I had mentioned in private about the donation box that actually tends to be overflowing and takes up some parking as well. That's not at the same end of the property. I'm not sure if it's owned by the same owner or not, but
I believe that's on the ShopRite parcel. Yeah, right? Because it's closer to the entrance by Starbucks. Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah. Well, Leslie, I think what you could do is motion to amend. I think we could add condition number 5, applicant shall submit a snow storage plan for approval by the town planning department. That'd probably be the simplest way, but you would need a motion and then get a second.
You making that motion? Are you making that motion? Just say, yeah, she read it. I understand what the
Yeah,
condition
that-
is. All right, do we have a second on
another
that?
condition, yes.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. All those in favor of the motion to modify the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. I think, they know how to manage the site. All right, but majority is that we'll modify the resolution. We'll add condition number 5 that states that they'll inform the planning office for approval of the snow storage plan. All right, so we have a modified resolution. I have a motion on the resolution as modified. Move for adoption of the modified resolution by Mr. Khan. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And seconded by Mr. Scributennis. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing no other discussion, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Ms. Strang,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Oh, you got
I'm
Skip?
sorry, Mr. Darpino.
There we go. Now it's approved. All right. Thank you, Mr. Henry. And I thank the applicant for making the modifications. We've been working on this for a while, especially the coloring to kind of tone things down over there with the compared to the original submittal. So I appreciate that. And good luck.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate everything. Have a great night.
Okay. All right, let's see, we have one more resolution, Resolution 2022-21, a resolution for site plan approval for Capital Kids Care After School and Summer Camp within the existing place of worship at Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church at 1850 Union Street. And I'll just summarize. Further resolved that this planning board and zoning commission hereby grants site plan approval for a school-age child care program at the Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church at 1850 Union Street as shown in a 5-page documentation package stamped received June 8, 2022, Planning Office, Niskuna, New York. This is one that the town board, we had a public hearing, town board had a public hearing, town board issued a special use permit, and its final approval is before us tonight. So do I have a motion for approval?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Scributinus for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And seconded by Ms. Gold. Okay, any discussion? I think it's straightforward and timely. Obviously, I know that there's some urgency with the applicant, so we tried to do the best we could and keep this moving along. And we have the applicant online if there's any questions at all or any comments from the applicant.
Hi, this is Katie Brownell. I just wanted to say thank you. It was a pleasure to work with the board and everyone else. And especially thank you to Laura and Clark. They're so helpful.
Great, and thank you. Any other comments? Pretty straightforward. Mr. Henry, please call the roll.
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Ms. Strang?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye, and the childcare at 1850 Union Street is approved. Okay, thank you and good luck with everything over there. All right, so that's it for new business. We'll move to discussion items. First under discussion is Empire Drive, the application for a two-lot minor subdivision that we had the public hearing for tonight. We have the applicant, and I'm sure you were here to hear some of the comments from the public. So I'd like to,
Yeah, Mr. Geralman's online too. I want to point that out.
okay. The only thing before you start, the only thing I'd just like to mention is that I heard a few times tonight that about taxes and about why, I heard this a lot, and so did the other members of the planning board. Why would we want to do this? We don't go out looking for subdivisions. We don't go out looking for housing developments. It's a right of the landowner to make application, which they did, and so we have to, give them due diligence and go through the process. It's their right to make application as landowner, and that's where we're at tonight. Okay, so.
Chairman, I just also wanted to tag on, the planning board is legally bound to have to complete several meetings before they call for a public hearing, because under the New York State law, you can't call for a public hearing on a subdivision without some environmental review being complete. So although the agenda is public and available for anybody to see, I understand why nobody regularly checks the planning board meeting, but this is as early in the process as the planning board is legally allowed to call for a public hearing.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, you want to give it a shot?
Sure. The concerns I hear are, that the lots are shoehorned in and small. I want to point out that we're, with the 2 acre minimum, the 1 acre, lot 2 is 2 acres, and that's, almost 5 times larger than the minimum required lot. The 1.8 acre lot is actually 4 times larger than the required minimum of 18,000 square feet in this zone. So if anything, these lots are way oversized according to the zone. They could be 18,000 square feet, which is about 0.4 acres. And that's what a lot of the surrounding lots appear to be. The other is stormwater from these lots. It appears, from looking at the topo on the lots, that most of the stormwater, especially from the areas where we're showing the proposed houses, continues and flows to the west and not towards Empire Drive. Some of the back or far east area of lot 2, the 2 acres lot, appears to flow into or towards Empire Drive, but there's no proposed, the houses aren't proposed in that area. As a large lot like these two with minimal impervious area, the New York State regulations don't require stormwater treatment for this. We're under the 25, as long as you don't disturb more than 5 acre in a residential development, and you're under the 25% impervious, which we are, post-construction stormwater treatment isn't required for a site like this. Again, these are large lots. Mr. Geralman, if anything, the stormwater will be going towards Mr. Geralman's existing lot, which is to the west of the site. He has a lot there, so.
Yeah.
All right, I'm here to answer any questions.
Yeah, let me go down some of these and maybe you
Yeah.
can, we heard concerns about the water table and you're stating that obviously there's a minimal impervious surface relative to the size of the lots there and that the water flow is toward, not toward Empire at this location, it's toward the, I guess it would be the west, right?
Yeah.
How about the wetlands on the properties? Are wetlands on the property that are going to be?
Isolated wetlands to the west where we're not proposing disturbance. So along the west property line, that far property line going up and down on the page, there are some isolated wetlands there. Yes.
Okay. And then this question may be for Laura. There was no requirements to notify the town and county, even though it borders the property.
Well, we do a county referral on these projects, but to be safe, I'll also send the plans to the colony. There's plenty of time for them to comment on it as well.
So you will send them?
Yeah, I can send
Okay.
it to them. The county referral, I think, is the county is supposed to consider county-wide impacts, but it's never a bad thing to send it to colony.
Because that's county, though, that's a different county. It was sent to Schenectady, though, right?
Right, but the point of a county referral is to consider. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we didn't send it to
I'll
Albany
send
County.
it to the
Yeah.
town of Colony.
Okay, that's good. All right, and the tree line along the property, or, again, I'm going to try to review some of the comments. Hopefully I don't miss any, but the tree line along the property, I mean, this is early in the process. Tonight was the public hearing. Probably will have the tree council take a look at trees along the property line and mark trees. That's typically what we do, especially any robust, non-disease and native to the area type trees, right, Laura?
Mhm.
So we'll do that as part of the review. This is, again, tonight was just a public hearing, so this is a work in progress. As far as the lots themselves, we can stipulate certain trees to stay, but obviously around the footprint of the home and driveways, there'll be trees that'll come down in those locations. Then the property owner, once they have their certificate of occupancy, if there's trees around the house, like if they want to put a shed in or a pool, they have the right to cut the trees just like anybody else has around there. But we'll see if we can, part of the process, maintain a buffer along the back property line, right?
Yeah, under subdivision, we can keep the limits of clearing pretty tight,
Yeah.
but once the property becomes private, everyone in the town of Niskuna has a right to clear, and they only need a building permit if it gets over 10,000 square feet. So we do our best, I think, to protect the trees, but they're not, I mean, if you ask me, we need more protection of the trees.
All right. There's comment, not aware that there may be some homes there. When the subdivision went in, the stub road was specifically put there. That's why the road was put there, because this parcel would have been landlocked without the stub road. We always try to put stub roads in so that in the future, that stub road's there, so that's like an identifier to people saying, hey, there may be a road going through. So we do our best to include stub roads in these subdivisions where there's a potential for future development, as was done in this case. I don't know if the neighbors would key to that when they see the stub road, thinking that maybe it would go through, but that's why it was put there. Make sure that this lot, because it was one lot that's proposed to be subdivided, would not be landlocked in case Mr. Geralman, who's online, want to build a home back there someday, because it's his property. It's not town property. He's owned this all along. I don't believe it was part of the original subdivision. Mr. Geralman owned this property for some time, is my understanding. So again, we're sorry to hear that the builder is saying things that may not be true about no building, that the land isn't available, so on and so forth. We can't control what the builders say. We've heard that before also at other subdivisions that we've had. I don't view it as squeezing in homes. Again, the application here is only for two, not only, I know it's important to the neighbors, but it's for two homes. I imagine if you want to try to put a cul-de-sac in there and have the expense of more road, maybe it's a potential for squeezing more in there. But the applicant has requested only a two-lot minor subdivision, and that's what we're acting on. Sewer or water, we already talked about that. As far as it's going to be hooked to the sewer system, right, and
Correct.
public water, so there won't be any septic tanks there. Obviously, there'll be some runoff, but that'll be designed as part of the layout, part of the engineering review as if we go forward with this. And let's see, again, we heard other things about drainage, and we heard about the natural area, animals, so on and so forth. And again, it's Mr. Geralman's property, and he has a right to make application and subdivide if he so desires, just like Van Antwerp, which we'll discuss next. Hopefully that answers your questions. If I missed any, you're always welcome to call the planning office, anybody, and talk to Laura or Clark during the day and get some questions answered. So hopefully you have it. We usually don't get back and forth. The public hearing's closed now, and this is a working session right now. So if you have some questions, why don't you jot them down? And okay, that's just the process. Okay. Yeah, that's the way we do it.
Laura, I have a question. And thank you, Chairman Walsh, for highlighting the issue of the suburb. Prior to what we heard from the neighbors tonight, has there ever been complaints about water in this development?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I will look. I do have to say that in reading the contours, like the lot on the right, the highest contour is 334, and it's at the, it's at this, I don't know which way north. I think north and south is right.
North
Wait,
and south, yeah.
but let's just say it's at the, the southeast is the highest point on that lot. So 334 and then 316 is the northwest corner of the lot. So to me, the way you have those contours, the water is all shooting toward Empire Drive. It is. That's the way the contours are flowing. So I do think that we should take a look and see if, there's a swale that should be put in there to keep water on this property with, some kind of storage. I don't think it's really fair to say that it's all going away, just based on the contours that are on the subdivision drawing.
The point I was making was that the area of the houses with new impervious would be draining towards the west. There is some, I believe I said that, there's some area at the east of Mr. Geralman's property that does flow towards Empire Drive.
Yeah, so maybe proposed contours would be helpful to understand how that's happening, how that's
Okay,
going to.
so maybe I should ask more specifically. I understand clearly this is a two-lot minor subdivision, and we don't require a more detailed water study.
Well,
But
yeah.
what can we ask for here to make this more clear?
Well, no, if there's known drainage issues, you can require a more detailed drainage study. Yeah, and I can look into that for you guys.
Right.
I don't know off the top of my head if we get drainage.
Yeah, I mean, Laura's got to go back and talk to the engineering and highway department to get their feedback on whether there's been any issues. Somebody mentioned litigation, whether there was any litigation
I'll
or
look.
not. And let's, we'll have to dig into that and find out as part of this process.
And obviously I'm assuming that the comments we heard from the neighbors tonight does contribute as making us aware that maybe there's a water issue.
Yeah, and also I heard a natural reserve. I think that's probably a wetland, but I'll pull those subdivision maps and see where that is and if it overlaps with the subdivision.
And as far as engineering review, Laura, will we have that done in-house by our engineering department?
If we require a more detailed drainage study, we would probably need a TDE, a town designated engineer.
Okay.
Yep.
But we won't know until we talk to highway and engineering. Is that?
Yeah, I want to do a little more research on that, and then we can recommend to the applicant, to what level of detail that we'll need on the drainage.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for clarity's sake, I heard one of you speak tonight about an MS4 permit. You stated that that's not applicable, right? Could you just clarify your response?
According to the DEC unless I reviewed the town of Niskayuna zoning, and I didn't see specific stormwater that went beyond the DEC rules, and Laura could correct me if I'm wrong. But DEC rules wouldn't require post-construction stormwater treatment for a lot like this. They would require basically a SWIP with soil erosion control during construction, but not during, nothing beyond that. No, nothing that stays there that treats the stormwater over the long haul. But,
Yeah, I mean, our code does say that if there's known drainage issues, you have to do a downstream drainage study. I mean, we wouldn't typically see a detention pond or something like that for this subdivision, but in small 2-lot subdivisions, we have seen swales and rain gardens, and we have, like, the town doesn't take over any of that infrastructure, but we have in these known areas made sure that there's a smaller detention area, around the house that the property owner, that is on the plot plan, that the property owner is made aware of, that they have to maintain. I can think of, Vincenzo has one of those, Vincenzo Drive has one of those, St. Mark's has one of those. So in areas with known drainage, we've had 2-lot subdivisions put in some stormwater retention. Not typically public, but still there.
understood.
And we do have a 25-foot buffer around wetlands, which, although your wetlands are pretty far away from the home, we should put those on the subdivision, the 25-foot buffer of no disturbance around the wetlands.
Okay.
I think the other open item, one of the other open items, Laura, was the easement was shown, 10 feet? It's going to be 12. Is that what it was?
It's shown at 8 feet, and my recommendation would be 12, because it'd be very difficult to construct it in an 8-foot easement.
Gotcha.
Typically, the surface is 8 feet.
Feet shown. All right.
I'll have to review that with Mr. Geralman.
All right, so let's talk about open items. So talk about the easement. The request is for the 12-foot versus the 8 shown. You're going to take a look at potential impacts of water coming off of the proposed location of homes and driveways, especially the water that has may go toward Empire Drive, and be prepared to talk about that possibly to either the town engineer or highway department or a town designated engineer if you can't free them up. And Laura, you'll talk to engineering and highway, see if there's any complaints, any concerns out there. And I guess you also have the tree council walk the land, put on the tree council agenda about saving any important trees, marking those, which we typically do.
I can just note, and I see Mr. Geralman's online, these are, especially for lot 2, like a pretty wide area for clearing. I didn't know if there was any reason that the clearing had to be so far along the back of like lot 2, or if you can tighten that clearing closer into the home. You have to unmute yourself, Robert. There you are.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my microphone there. Those are just lines that we tried to keep within your restriction on the volume of clearing. So of course those lines could be moved.
Well, I'm just saying when the tree council takes a look at this project, I mean, the very typical comment is to do the minimal amount of clearing for the homes. Unless there's some reason to have a large, like if, you already have a client there and they're requesting a large backyard, like that's a lot larger clearing limit than we would normally see for a single family home.
Apparently all the other lots on Empire Drive were clear cut completely. So I'm only looking at what I might want to do. I'm not saying this is what I want to do, but it costs me more money to cut down more trees too. So I'm probably not going to cut as much as what those lines define.
All right, so the request is to see if you can tighten up on the site plan, the proposal. And that makes it obviously easier for the tree council to mark any trees that need to be saved and preserve as much as possible for the neighbors. So just take a look at that, okay?
Thank you.
Laura, could I just ask, I'm sorry, excuse me. If this gets sent out to a TDE, is that cost passed on to the applicant?
Yes, the
Okay.
developer pays for that.
Always.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board?
So, Chairman Walsh, I think we had discussed also that if this application was to go through, that we would also put a provision in to not re-subdivide.
Not re-subdivide, yep.
Lot number 2 specifically is trapezoidal in shape. If the applicant was approached by other neighbors about possibly parceling off part of that, would this trigger an entirely new application?
For which parcel?
Lot number 2 to the right.
To the right. So you're talking about along Empire Drive, if any of the residents there want to procure some of the land from the applicant?
Correct.
You're asking.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would,
Subdivision or a lot.
yeah, that's it.
adjustment?
Correct.
Well, it's a subdivision right now. We're working through the subdivision process, so I mean, it's still a subdivision.
So it would work as a lot line adjustment for one of the lots, but if, for instance, 2 of the lots wanted to purchase some land to, sort of protect the backyard, then you would be in subdivision territory. It would only work as a lot line adjustment with one of the lots.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, because there's concerns, you do a lot line adjustment, you still got to look at setbacks. You can't impact, any of the requirements of the R1 zoning district.
Right. Well, lot line adjustments are easier to do than subdivision, but like, for instance, it would be very easy to do a lot line adjustment with the Daniel F. Woolley and Teresa Zielinski because they're adjacent. That's like this part. You could easily do a lot line adjustment there. But if you're talking about changing something behind these properties, that may be a consideration for not wanting to limit the subdividing. I don't know. Because those would require subdivision.
Yeah, but right now, there's nothing on, there's no application for a lot line adjustment, and there's no plans for any, Mr. Geralman, right? For any additional sales on your property, except for the 2 lots that you're proposing?
The 2 lots is all I was proposing. I was not considering, or I don't think I even want to entertain subdividing it up with the other adjacent Empire Drive neighbors. So just 2 lots.
Okay, thank you.
Would a deed restriction be a consideration if the land wouldn't be for sale or additional subdivision for the purpose of protecting trees? Do we know?
Only way that we've been able to protect trees like on St. Mark's is with a conservation easement that went through the backs of the lots, and that was specific to the fact that the drainage went through the forest there. And in the drainage study, it was found that it was a good way to, without building a swale, like naturally absorb the water that was flowing behind the houses in that subdivision.
Which
is our backyard. That's what you're saying, it's marshland.
Which is why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
Which is why this could be pertinent to the runoff concerns or additional runoff concerns.
Yeah, so if we're doing a drainage study in the area, we could look at if there's particular areas that would lend themselves to a conservation easement.
Okay.
Not a deed restriction, though.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, so it sounds like we got some open items, work in progress. We'll take it the next step and keep working on it. It'll be on the agenda. Take a look at the agenda. It's posted usually the Friday before the Monday. Our next meeting is, let's take a look here, September, somewhere. What is it? Next meeting, September 12th. And if you have any specific questions, anybody from the public, please, you can email Laura Robertson. I think there's a link on the webpage. So you can email her or give the planning office a call, and they'll be glad to answer any questions you have. And any concerns you have, they'll document those and pass them on to the planning board for our consideration also. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
And just because it's a public hearing doesn't mean that you can't speak at the
Yep,
next meeting.
exactly.
You speak under privilege of the floor.
Yep, you can speak at privilege of the floor. Yep. Okay?
And Laura, I just want to add my voice in closing on this site. I think a drainage study, one way or the other, would be one.
Yeah, I'll pull the adjacent subdivisions and take a look at what the drainage issues are that are over there.
And we can also take a look at the other, whatever the subdivision name of it was. There's a couple different builders in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that I can think of off the top of my head are St. Mark's and Vincenzo. Both of those had ring.
Yeah, I meant for this
and
subdivision,
Hillside.
for
Yeah.
Empire, that whole area. Was there any drainage done in that area studies that,
Oh, yes, I will look for that too.
Yeah.
Hmm. On the Orchard Park Estates or whatever
Orchard
the
Park, that was
subdivision is.
called?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so we got a few things to do. Okay? All right, nothing else? Okay, we'll close this topic for tonight. Thank you, and we'll pick it up hopefully at next meeting. All right, next up is 2239 Van Antwerp Road, and that's again the two-lot minor subdivision. We had the public hearing tonight on. We have representative here, and no one spoke at that public hearing. Let's see. But let's take a look at my notes. Where are we at on that one? The only thing I noticed, you updated the map, right? That was included in the packet, right, Laura? The
Yeah,
update, you
saw
shifted
that.
the driveway to the other side, so on and so forth. Let's see. The comment regarding Empire for the 12-foot easement, there's a 10-foot easement on this subdivision. Is that because it's along the road and they can
Yeah.
work from the road?
You don't need as much in
Yeah,
that area.
just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That was the only thing that I noticed. How about similar comments here? Engineering and so on and so forth and drainage. What do we got to do next on this proposal?
The other items that were asked for at the last meeting were the sewer easement, which has been included, and the 25-foot grading limit to the wetland buffer.
Okay. That's on the map there.
The sewer easement is,
Sorry.
it's right in here. Sewer line running this way, and then the buffer goes around. It's 25 feet, hard to tell. But,
All the drainage on this property all goes to the back or front? Can you give us just kind of a rundown?
Looks like it's going to run mainly to the back
Yeah.
of the property from the contours.
So Laura, with this one, I think it's really, I don't know, so much, maybe not so much highway, but this is again engineering, right? Whether they're happy with the proposal for the sewer, whether it's doable, whether there's any other concerns.
Yeah, and the only other thing was that tree council did walk this site already. They were invited, the applicant did. I'll let them go take a look at it. And they would like to have the trees of greater than 25 inches in diameter marked on the subdivision plan. They did a quick count. There was about 16 of them there. And they just want to see if there's a way that you could do like a side loading garage, or just if this is the best plan to save all the large trees, but they wanted to figure out a plan to maximize them. Some of the pictures were included in the packet. There's some really big trees on that,
25 inch in diameter?
which is big. Like
Yeah.
that's already
Yeah, I
like
just wanted
that
to make
big.
sure you
Yeah.
meet circumference, diameter.
Okay, so you want those marked on the plan?
Yeah.
Okay, and okay.
Just 25
At
inch
least
or
in the
greater?
area of the clearing limits, just to make sure that, like potentially we could
Yeah.
make a plan. And he's working on the feedback, I think.
Yeah, so it's 25 inch in diameter or greater.
Yeah.
In just a clearing limit?
I think that's fine because obviously in the wetlands and the wetland buffer, you're not going to go anywhere near that. But knowing where those big trees are, especially like between the proposed homes, I think there's a bunch where the swale is. So it may, like maybe if we can swap the swale, something like that.
Okay.
And this is one with the, do we need to include the fence along the buffer area or any kind of designation for the future homeowner so it doesn't get disturbed? Do we have to do a split rail fence like we do in other sites?
I would leave that up to you guys. It's certainly good practice. The interesting thing about this one is that the wetland's so far back and it's quite a drop. So
Yeah.
I don't see this being as easy to clear down to the boundaries of the wetlands, but you never know. And it is the practice that you guys typically do.
Yeah. We're talking about there, a lot of times we, other municipalities do it different, maybe with signage or it's on the plan, so you're supposed to know, but you know how that goes when homeowners start filling and they want their yard bigger and they bring fill in and they end up filling in wetlands that they shouldn't be. So usually we have like a split rail fence and I don't think it needs to be completely shown, but just something that kind of points where that area starts,
Okay, so that would be at the grading limit then?
The
or at
25-foot
at the
buffer.
25-foot buffer?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's just a couple sections in a strategic location, just as a marker and
Yeah, it might make sense just kind of to do that split rail fence on the 25-foot buffer, kind of like right in here, because that's going to be
Right.
the area that is the closest to wanting to be yard.
So like in this area here?
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, and then if you note on the drawing too, that wide split rails there and that the wetlands cannot be disturbed, so that would
Like
be.
a little sign.
Yeah,
there.
well, no, on the drawing, so that,
Okay.
when it gets filed, somebody buys it, they understand that they're not going to go filling in back there and expand their yard without,
Okay.
you know.
So maybe one section of fence here and then two perhaps that way?
Yeah, propose what you think is enough
Okay.
to delineate.
All right, because this, the sewer line is running right through there, so I don't want to
Yeah, I don't want to put it,
create any issues with that.
exactly.
But on the buffer, not on the edges of the wetland. It's on the buffer.
On the buffer.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that'll delineate, for the future. And we've done that, most of the other subdivisions, including off of Balltown Road and over at Kelt's Farm,
Amador.
Amador, yep.
So we'll say 3 sections of fence or?
Yeah, you put down what you think is appropriate enough to delineate it, and we'll take a look at it. How's that?
Okay.
Lauren, do you have any notion whether or not McMahon would do east of the properties of any water issues there? Given the flow, it's a high constant water, right? It goes all the way down to 80 feet. There's a 20-foot dip.
Oh, yeah.
You expect there's going to be ponding back there?
Yes, that whole area is wetland. I pulled the adjacent subdivisions on this one, and the area that's delineated wetland here carries on to both of those other properties. So
More flow. It's right. It's likely to be more contributing to some kind of water sheeting.
yeah. So it might be a good idea to look and see if, like a rain garden works here too, just to make sure that you're not adding. You don't want to take water away from the wetlands, but you don't want to expand them into other people's yards either.
Yeah, but wouldn't the wetlands kind of act as like a natural rain garden?
I mean, they can. Maybe just a description of how that drainage in that area is working would be really helpful for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So describe drainage area.
Like if those wetlands out fall into a stream. Yeah, I don't know. We can look at it. You can come meet with the engineering department and take a look at it.
Any other thoughts, comments? Do we have all the open items pretty much captured? Make sure that the town's okay with the sewer engineering, right? And the locations, proposal for the easement. Tree council, they've already walked the site, or they still got some work to do. You want to mark the trees that are greater than 25 inches in diameter that are in the potential for saving outside the building envelope itself. Now, it's inside the building envelope. We don't mark those, right? I mean, there's.
No, I think in this case it's good to do them inside the building envelope because potentially it would change where you're doing the grading in the driveway. Yeah, because you may be able to save some on the edges.
Okay. So once that gets marked up, then you would take a look at that to see if if the design that's proposed where the side load now to the to the north, I guess it would be, of the house, right? Because what was on the other side and was moved over to. So take a look at that once the trees are marked and whether it makes sense.
Okay.
And we'll have engineering take a look at it again. Drainage description, just a summary of what the expectation is for flows. I don't really have anything else. You learn. I think it's pretty straightforward,
Okay.
We get that update and get that in, and Laura will, you need to talk to the engineering department, work that through Laura or Mr. Henry. And I think one discussion with engineering, I think if everything looks okay, then we can move forward after that.
Okay. Will we be on the next meeting or?
I don't see why not. We can have you down for discussion unless you have a meeting before then, and you're able to, get all these open items done, but I don't think you're going to be able to get the tree council back over there or mark the trees within the next couple of weeks. Right?
Oh, you wanted them to mark the trees? You want?
No, you were going to mark the trees, right?
No, they requested him because there's so many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, greater than 25-inch diameter. That's why I want to clarify it. And that's how many feet above the ground, Laura?
It's diameter breast height, so it's like 4 feet.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll be in touch with Clark and.
Yeah, and then I
whatever
think,
we do.
I think we're in pretty good shape with this application.
Okay.
Not that there isn't concerns, but we didn't hear from the public tonight, so it doesn't seem like there's any great concerns.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody hates change. I do too, especially when there's a lot that hasn't been a home there. But, but again, the landowner has the right to request and, and it meets all the zoning requirements. So
Okay.
I'm sure we'll get through it.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
And like I said, call the planning office if you have any questions, all right?
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Agenda. I'm okay. Bear with me. Okay, Union Street, 1747 Union Street, Rosada Gas Station, a site plan application for the 492 square foot addition. And we have Mr. Kaufman representing the applicant here tonight. I will note that as stated in the agenda statement, the Zoning Board of Appeals did grant the area variance to allow this applicant to go forward. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yes. How you doing? How you doing, all sirs? Thank you, and ma'ams. As before, my name is Dan Kaufman. I'm with Couple Core Engineering, and I'm representing this gas station project. So there has been there was some new plans that were submitted for the zoning board, and so I think those new plans that we submitted before answer some of the questions, but wasn't sure if there was
Well, one thing you do, Laura, could you pull up the latest site plan so we can see where we're at?
Okay.
And then what I'd like to make sure we got, and, is any open items, right, Dave? And make sure, as we move forward with this.
So there's an interior that was changed too, which looks better to me. And this is the exterior.
Yeah, the interior basically added where the cashier would be. Looks like his back is to the front wall along Union Street. So you can see both entrances from that location, right? To his left and straight ahead.
Here.
Yes.
So there's a place for somebody to stand behind the cash register. now.
Right.
Yes.
It's very important.
And it looks like they can move around the counter to get to the coffee or the fryer or grill. Looks like that whole area is accessible, that
That was it.
L-shaped area. 3 foot 6 inches wide. Any questions or comments on the interior layout? I don't have any. No. Okay, let's take a look at the exterior, Laura. I know you said there's a rendering, and I'm assuming that, I think the Architectural Review Board already talked about this a little bit, right? But again, a work in progress, since the approvals were just granted.
So why don't we recap some of the exterior
Okay.
improvements? All right. So first off, the folding bin has been removed.
Correct. Yes.
That's gone. You've delineated the sidewalks on Van Antwerp and Union Street, which I think is helpful because that's going to come into the conversation with traffic flow, not just pedestrian, but also vehicular.
Yes.
The 10 spaces are in. The only, I guess, question or concern is that the handicap space right now it looks like it's currently going to be parking space number 3.
Yes.
Which is by the red zone right there.
Yes, right there.
Okay. So next to the building, coming towards the pumps that are to the south, you've got a distance of 14 feet, 6 inches from the edge of the sidewalk to what looks to be like the edge of the canopy.
Yes.
Why is it demarcated to the edge of the canopy? Is that a height concern?
No, I think I put the 14 feet just because that is the, because I wanted to show that that's the only driving area.
Okay.
The 3 feet, I know there's another 3 feet of sidewalk, yes, but I don't consider that a driving a area that anybody should be driving on.
Oh, correct. But I guess what I'm getting at is that if a car's at the pump and
Okay.
you're not worried about a large truck or something coming in front of the building, normally you try to get parking as close to the building as possible. And even if you had a space or two that were parallel with the building, you might have the opportunity to have a space there if that was something that needed to be considered. Right now, someone's going to park across the parking lot and have to traverse past the pumps to get into the building.
Yes.
So we haven't, I guess but the solution has not put a parking space up against the building, which is normally what we'd like to try to see as a parking space, either next to a sidewalk or connected to the building, close to the door. If there was a concern that the canopy height.
No,
was
it wasn't
restricting-
it wasn't that concern. My concern with only putting a parking space right there is the difficulty of the traffic
Site circulation.
and site circulation, putting an actual space right there, because if somebody for anybody to, let's say, come from Van Antwerp to those 3 spaces, by putting a space right there, right in front of them now, you're making it very difficult for anybody to actually get over to those 3 spaces, because now you're basically blocking that 14 feet of driving by having a space there. So that was my concern of actually putting a space in there. I think before I had shown a space, and just it's very difficult because it's going to basically block. If you put a space there, you're blocking that whole anybody trying to drive through that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you've explored the distance between that if it wasn't a viable option. Then
I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's a good option myself. I mean, if the board feels it's a good option, then I leave it up to the board.
But there has been some kind of striping to allow that person parking in that spot to safely get to the building.
Can I ask what spot are we talking about?
So spot number 3 is the designated handicap parking.
That doesn't say that on my drawing.
Number 8 now, it looks like. Right?
It says no-
It says proposed bollard, HDC sign and bollard.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so what's?
That's right. There is.
They show another one in the back.
Oh, it's right.
with
There is
the
one in the
number
back.
8.
Yeah, okay, so, and so number 8
I
in
didn't
the
move
back.
that. I didn't move that. I apologize.
All right, got it.
Okay,
That was
That's fine.
my fault.
right. Because normally you have to have some space on either side of a handicap space for either if it's van accessible or whatever, they usually stripe. Okay, so number 8 is just a regular parking space.
Yes.
Number 3 is your designated one based on where the signage is, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I didn't think number 8 would be good because that person has to come
No.
a very long distance
No,
away.
you
Right?
might- you might as well park on the street and get it.
Okay, all right, good.
So I was saying striping from 3 to the building. Right? Is that
Yeah, that's what looks- that's
place
what
where
you're
someone could
recommending.
safely walk or move.
I'm okay with adding that kind of striping.
And like a crosswalk kind of striping from the handicap space. of the
Just a
building?
delineation so it does get blocked, so there's a path to the sidewalk,
I
right?
mean, is a crosswalk kind of striping appropriate for that, or is it something else?
I mean, I think it's okay to let people know that pedestrians are crossing from parking spots 1, 2, and 3 there to get to the sidewalk.
Yeah, you're gonna just pick it up right at the furthest
Yeah.
point in the sidewalk.
And the sidewalk is wheelchair accessible, they'll be able to get up onto the sidewalk?
The sidewalk is not raised.
Okay.
It's right on grade.
Okay, thank
So there is no issue with that.
Didn't know if it was being replaced or not. And then the bollards for the propane storage, we've had several of those, come in front of this board. I don't know if there's a standard design for those, but the purpose of the bollards is protect the vehicles from, driving into the propane storage.
Yes.
I don't know about your spacing there. There's no dimension there. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I'm saying is make sure it serves the purpose of
Yeah, I mean,
protecting-
what I was thinking was a 3-foot tall, bollard, not the concrete block kind of bollard.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying the distance between the bollards, the way it's shown, it looks, I don't know what the width is there. Can a vehicle drive through there or not? I can't tell from your.
Yes, there happens to be, there's more than 14 feet on that, between there. So I didn't show that distance.
Well, I mean, you don't want a vehicle to drive between the bollards to hit the propane. so
Right, no,
bollards
no,
have-
no, I meant there is room. Basically, those bollards are not gonna be that big. They're not gonna be, I would only want them to be like the 1 foot diameter.
Yeah,
The,
yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying, make sure they block.
Spacing needs to be tighter.
Yeah, it has
Okay.
to block the propane storage, and there's, might be a standard design for that that's approved by
Okay,
the propane vendor. I think we've run
Okay.
into that before with Stewart's and other locations where they, the placement of the bollards for the propane, that's all.
okay,
So just check on that to make sure they're appropriately spaced.
okay.
And then there was a comment also from one of the committees about striping for the ingress egress along Van Antwerp or Union. Was there anything we need to do about that comment?
Well, I mean, I went down and looked at the site, and I know that one of the issues is that people traveling westbound on Union Street love to cut that corner right onto Van Antwerp, avoiding the stop sign. It's constant. So when I was there was at least one car that had done that when the traffic had backed up.
Come through the site and just bypass?
Oh yeah, they cut.
Oh
the
boy.
corner, and they go up Van Antwerp.
Mm.
So it's very common. It's very
Mm.
common. If it's a tight intersection, and I know that you're looking at possibly doing some plantings on that corner. Obviously, they can't be very tall or high, and the signage that's there. I just think that we should take another look at possibly, looking at how we could streamline that corner, still maybe allowing some ingress or egress out of there, but making it so it's a lot more difficult for cars to just simply move at speed and cut that corner.
Well, maybe what to do is to make that an entrance only entrance, not to be a entrance exit, because really, as that being, if that's really, I mean, that's not. I can understand that that entrance, that being, is it so close to the intersection, that's not a good exit. So we could put it. I could have them add a sign that says this is an entrance only, not an exit, and that would then and we could also even look into making Union Street only an entrance, not an exit. Because I mean, I understand that being right next to the intersection, that is something that's done pretty often, is to make those only entrances, not exits.
Yeah, it's mostly the westbound traffic on Union cutting to go north on Van Antwerp. The other way, you have to do a lot of work to cut through because you're coming across traffic. Can be done, but that seems to be the most problematic and continuous issue that.
Yeah, I can see that happening, and it's, to me, I think.
But you're saying that if you made it a entrance only, Dave's saying that's where the issue is.
Well, I'm saying to make that an entrance only and to make Van Antwerp also an entrance only.
Making Van Antwerp an entrance only.
So then they actually can't cut through that.
If I'm in there,
Well,
if I want to.
Sadly, no one listens to signs that are on site, though. Like, you'd have to do it with curbing or something, I would
So
think.
what
and
about those
landscaping.
pork chop things that, I mean, that might be extreme. It's just, I'm thinking, I know that it's usually used for right in, right out, but if you had some type of hardscape that would kind of prevent
Yeah,
the cut.
curbing,
Like
yeah.
curb, yeah.
Mhm.
No, you're talking about basically some kind of like, basically changing the pavement a little bit, basically with some kind of.
Yeah, like a raised 6-inch curb with maybe mulch, doesn't have to be super wide. But, I mean, I don't know how else you control the cars. They won't listen to exit only signs.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I do realize that. I do realize that there can be.
Yeah, that southwest entrance is very problematic for a number of reasons. One, cars can just cut through, like I had talked about. Also, if someone is in the lot and they want to come out and take a left, they have to cross over traffic with a stop sign next to it and they also have the oncoming traffic coming on Union Street, especially when the light opens up green.
So how about closing off that Southwest Union exit?
I think it should be explored and taken a look at. Keeping the Van Antwerp entrances, I think, is fine because people can come in and come out and
Okay.
loop in safely. There seems to be enough buffer there, but there's other precedents right in the neighborhood that shows the way those corner configurations are, and I think a couple points of entry or streamlining that would be pretty beneficial.
And we're just talking about the westmost entrance
Correct.
on Union, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Now, and obviously you gotta take a look at your delivery trucks and your gas delivery, whether, what their typical route is, which way they go on site and how they deliver. Do they utilize that point?
They have gone out basically. That is an easier exit for them to go from Union Street basically back out. So that already might go back into Van Antwerp, but I would see them more regularly use Union Street, this southwest Union Street exit as their usual exit because it's the most direct way for them to leave.
I really wouldn't want to divert them over to Van Antwerp.
Yeah, that doesn't
Really
work
wouldn't want
either.
to do that. I do have a concern about minimizing ingress and egress because it can make it more difficult for the on-site maneuvering. I will note that the Knott Street work made it much harder to get in and out of the gas station on the corner. And it's already a problem. And come winter, it's going to be a worse problem because they extended the sidewalk down and really narrowed that entrance and exit. And if you're used to certain maneuvers, you really have a hard time getting in that way now. So I don't want to do that to this site as well.
I guess my question is, what would be the delivery truck flow proposal in a new design that didn't have the southwest egress?
Well, the food delivery trucks would actually use the Union Street entrance, Union Street exit. That would be more to the east. Because the delivery trucks are going to come off of Van Antwerp, go around, park at the delivery door, and then go out right over here and go out at the eastern entrance
And they
on
can
Union Street.
they can make that turn past the proposed handicap?
Yes, they can because his delivery trucks are not big box trucks. They're only like 20, but 19 feet long.
And then the gas delivery will deliver, they're dropping the fuel in the holding tanks, right?
Yes.
And they're going to also continue straight, or they're going to back out?
I would think that they would back up a little bit, and then they would
Come out to Union Street.
come out to Union Street. That's what I would think.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, is the delivery trucks, if they close that off, how are they gonna move around the site? And otherwise, they're trying to back up on Van Antwerp or, and I understand your concern, Dave, because I see that a lot where they cut through. That drives me
The
crazy.
best you can do is to maintain the same ingress and egress, probably put an explicit sign. But that just gives people who didn't have the idea.
Yeah, that's enforcement.
Yeah, and I'm just bringing up an observation of.
I do realize that. I do
So,
appreciate that.
I think the good news is that we're not creating a problem. It's an existing condition that we think is known. I just think it's worthwhile to take a look at the delivery system, see if it makes sense to choke that down a little bit, even if it's a little wider and can offer some more landscaping and some more greenscaping there.
Okay.
It's a pretty generous ingress and egress.
Yes, it is.
So if it can be improved, take a look at it. Maybe it means taking the center planting bed and extending it a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe the depth of the canopy on one side and coming back. It'll still have ample amount of space for delivery trucks to come in and out and ingress and egress. It would also improve the capabilities of improving some of the landscaping that's along Union Street. Obviously on Van Antwerp, there's not much you can do. The sidewalk's right up against the road.
Yep.
It's a tight site. That is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, we got that one bed now where the clothing thing used to be, so that's good news. I agree with you, David. If you could take a look at that, I think that's a good word, choking it, because if the delivery truck's still able to have site circulation and egress onto Union Street, if you extend the planning bed out a little bit, maybe you can at least deter people from trying to shoot through there and bypass that stop sign, you know?
Okay.
And I'd like to confirm that, what does the delivery truck do today if those holding tanks are also in the same location they're going to be?
I mean, what it does, I mean, from my understanding, I mean, I have not, I will admit that I have not seen the actual delivery of the gasoline, but my understanding is that they usually pull in there from Van Antwerp and then pull out on Union Street.
That looks clear to me. I just would like to confirm what they actually do, because
I'd have to check with.
Yeah, go check, please check and let us know, okay?
Yeah, just
Okay.
go straight through if possible. I just want to know what they do.
Yeah. And if there's a time that, the owner, Mr. Khan, you and myself wanted to meet, or somebody from the planning department, if you're getting a delivery, we can stop by and check it out just to see what the circulation is. I know the box trucks where they come in on the side makes perfect sense. It's just when the oil tanker comes.
Right.
It's your largest vehicle, it's going to be entering and exit the site. If we talk to the drivers, which are probably pretty regular, considering he's getting his fuel locally, I would imagine, then we could talk with them and find out what the actual parameters are. If we said, hey, 8 or 9 feet was taken out of here, is that really going to be difficult? And if he can't, he has to back out onto Van Antwerp. We obviously don't want to create a worse condition
Definitely.
than what's there.
Okay.
And that may be the answer.
Yep.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Could I go back to the rendering? Oh, sorry.
Yep, microphone, please.
Could you just go back? I do have a question in the exterior I missed to ask.
No problem.
Just have 2 points on it. So you take a look at the rendering, right? Clearly, this was a 2-bay gas station in an earlier time.
Yes.
It's a service door over to the left. Right now, this both you look at the Google Earth and you look at this, it presents with 2 doors, one that's not activated, one that's sealed.
Correct.
If we have a bite at the apple now to clean up this space, I'd like that door removed. I'd like to have one door. I see that there's a sleeve, an air conditioner sleeve, and what had been an inactive door.
Right.
If we're going to do rehab, that should be cleared, and it should just be a single window.
Okay.
And just, I'd like to make one more point. If you just go to the August 2021 Google Earth, every single window is cluttered with a visual sign. Beer, cigarettes, lotto tickets. You look at your competitors, Stewart's as an example. We're going to give this opportunity and want some clarity and cleanliness in signs. We just can't have every window have an advertising sign.
Okay.
I would submit that there's pushback, that it's just visual noise. It's not commercially valuable to the owner because no one sees it because every window has something different. So I'd just like to just keep that live with the board because it presents terribly from the street.
Okay.
We have this bite at the apple now to clean it up.
And then you said remove that door.
You take a moment, you'll see there's different beer advertisements in every window.
I am aware of that. I'm aware of that.
Thanks.
No, good point.
The zoning board also asked the applicant to clean the signage on the site up. So that's a echo right there that is loud and clear.
Yes.
I love that door to get cleared up too.
I think that's a reason. That's definitely a reasonable thing. I mean, we're going to have. That's a definite reasonable thing that he wants. He wants to clean up the site, so it's definitely he wants. That door is not really useful at all to have there. That makes sense.
Yeah, like we mentioned last meeting too, there's, a couple of 55-gallon drums in the back. It looks like, is there product in them? They're not labeled. I don't think that's the way to handle, is it water in them? Is it used oil? who knows, it's probably not a good thing for the fire. So, site cleanup is going to be a condition in the future resolution.
Okay.
That this, it gets taken care of, the tree growing, out of the back of the house near the
Yeah.
AC compressor, just it needs to be cleaned up. And, you're going to put this money into, the addition and fixing this all up. I'm sure you want it to look good too, so.
Yes. There was one other thing about I think, Laura, you brought up about the complete streets curb.
I was just gonna bring up the Google Earth image. Hold on. So the complete streets felt like if you're walking down the sidewalk on Van Antwerp, it's very flat and not delineated like where the cars drive over it. So there's like, how if you're crossing a really busy road and you have like a refuge lane island that has curbs, so you can stand there and theoretically a car is not going to hit you in the island.
Right.
There isn't anything all along Van Antwerp. So they were thinking that the best place to put either a curb or some kind of way to let the pedestrians know, hey, cars shouldn't be driving across the sidewalk here. Which, like, to David's point, it's just like a free for all. Like, you can actually drive over the sidewalk on Van Antwerp almost anywhere.
Yeah.
But there's a place where there's like a pole and some wires, and that seemed like a good place to put some curbing up, or even some paint that just says, hey, nobody drive here. Like, this is.
Would it be okay? I was just talking to the owner. He would like to put up basically those parking, like those parking stops. Those
like the little tiny, the little tiny bollards.
No, not the tiny bollards.
The long concrete blocks?
Yeah, concrete blocks are just basically like those. And he could just put a line to those.
They're pretty ugly.
You prefer to have a curb.
Not unless they were planners or something that were much more delineated.
So Laura, to confirm, you're saying like perhaps directly parallel or to the pump
Yeah, here.
station, so that cars would intentionally go in between the pump and this curb.
Right.
Yeah, like, so do you see this? Like, theoretically, a car could even be like, oh, I want to get gas and just
Yeah.
drive right through here.
Yes.
And so, like, all along the sidewalk, there's no place that the entrances and exits are delineated, and it's like a
Yes.
free for all. Like, the pedestrians don't have like a refugee, really. The only refugee they have is like behind these two poles. So, like, what the CAC was thinking is that you somehow delineate like right in here that cars don't drive through there. Like, you can pull into the pumps, but don't drive across the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean,
Or green space.
that's a good
Yeah.
opportunity since there's poles there anyway. You can't, so make use of that space, right?
Right. I mean, that seems to be the best use of, but it needs to be more than just the poles,
Yeah,
because like if
just
you look at this whole length.
Little landscaping feature around the pole.
Yeah, like they were saying, like in front of the pit stop, like just put something there.
Yeah.
So like between here and here, at least there's a moment.
It has to clear the sidewalk, the pedestrian sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, they were just. I mean, even you can even do it with paint, I would think, but just.
But not in the winter.
Yeah,
I
or
love the
curbing.
idea of having something raised.
Yeah, they thought curbing.
Intentional.
Yeah. I mean, it can be very small curbing. I mean, because you're already adding the curbing over here, which we talked about. You're already adding the curbing because you're adding that one landscaped island.
Yes.
So if you're already pouring curbing, just pour some more.
I understand. I understand. That is. I talked to him just before this meeting, and he understood that there should be something there. That's why he asked if it had to be curb or if it could be something else. But if curb isn't preferred, then he's okay with that.
Yeah, you'd want it to match the rest of the site so that it all looks cohesive. Yeah.
Right. That's a great perspective of, even though there's 4 arrows going in and out on Van Antwerp, it's really just one big arrow.
Yeah. I know. I've seen some people just pull right in and like on an angle. That I have seen.
Yeah, Mr. Kaufman, we're still, I think, from the very first time you folks were here, I requested seeing something along the lines of landscaping, a plan. And I think I mentioned it the last 1 or 2 times you were here. We still don't see anything.
I can go over with him, but, so you basically, you'd like to see a landscaping plan, basically, of what
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
plantings.
so, because it's sparse as it has been, and I think if this is the time to beef it up, let's go big or go home, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Make it look great and,
All
like, I reiterate also the signage in those windows is a little overwhelming, and it also takes out maybe even a safety measure in terms of having to be able to see through that glass if necessary. And also it takes out the natural light. So I think those should also come down myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will send you the tree council comments if I didn't already, but they looked at what type of plantings you might be able to augment the site with and have some suggestions.
Okay. They already provided those suggestions?
They provided them to me. If I haven't provided them to you, I'll check and send them to you.
Please forward them. Thank you.
All right, before we go over open items, any other questions from the board? Or Dave, you have anything else? Maybe we just review open items before we move on here. Okay, I got something. I mean, the Ballards take a look at the correct spacing with whatever
Yes.
NFPA or whatever organization controls the Ballards to protect the propane tanks.
Okay.
We talked about plantings and a landscape plan. Obviously, plans for the building itself. It's going to go to the architectural review board, but we wanted, the opportunity to have it cleaned up all around the building, the site cleaned up as a result of this project. David's comment regarding choke down that one spot, the West Union Street entrance somehow. Again, it's up to you to propose something.
All right.
We talked about validation of the gas delivery site circulation for those tankers, just to make sure anything we do or asked to have done doesn't impact delivery of gas. The old door being removed, window advertising minimized, and then a safe haven around those telephone poles along Van Antwerp is what I had. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Yep.
What was about the
Safe haven?
safe haven?
It's just, we talked about those two poles along Van Antwerp, utilizing some of that space there to either have a delineation or a raised curb so that people, you already can't pull through there because the poles are there. So utilize that. So if somebody's walking, they have a refuge when they're like cars.
Okay, so it actually doesn't have to be a curb. It could be somehow a.
Well, we talked about striping. Obviously, it doesn't help during the winter. It'd be nice if it was a little bit of a curve with some, make it look nice. But you make a recommendation. It's up to you to make.
Just as a reference, if you look at the aerial view of the site on Union, there is a red delineation adjacent to the pumps.
Okay.
Do the same thing on the Antwerp.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, thoughts? No? You got enough to keep you going?
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
It's okay.
All right.
It's my job.
And we'll get closer. Once we get closer and we start closing some of the items, then we'll get close enough, we can call for a tentative resolution, but we're not there yet. We'll get one more working session. You're probably looking at construction spring or during?
I think he would like to start. He would like to start this fall if possible.
Okay.
But I do realize that it's going to be tight.
Yeah, we're getting closer. Getting there. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And again, I'd like to thank everybody here because I know we had a long agenda tonight. Hang in there. We'll try to keep it moving along. Okay. Just bear with us. All right. And so next is 2209 Knott Street. That's the Broken Inn. And that's the site plan application for the outdoor dining. And I know we have Mr. Nicky online with us tonight and Mr. D'Arpino, the project lead. So I guess we can just go ahead. Where are we at? Obviously, it was included in the packet, the proposal. So.
Correct. When last I came in front of the planning board, they'd asked me to create a new design, which I've done with MJ Engineering to both maximize parking, but also make sure that all safety precautions or measures, I should say, were taken into account, which we've done. Have done a site plan visit, both with Mr. D'Arpino and Chairman Walsh, Mr. Henry, and I believe Laura Robertson as well. It's been some time. And since that point, I did submit a proposal, obviously, discussing the objective. We have a really wonderful area now in front of the plaza. I think most people would agree that it's safer, it's more visually appealing. There is no greenery, there is nowhere to sit, there is no place to put your bike. And all of this really was jump-started by the fact that on the Clifton Park Road side of the plaza, where we have an ice cream window, there really was a significant safety concern. And I think very wisely, and I thank you for this, the planning board had approved temporary water barricade that would allow us to keep our patrons and pedestrians safe from people who have questionable parking skills or navigating skills. Since that point, we've had no even close calls, no concern in that regard. But at this point in time, we want to move this project forward through the right process, obviously, to make sure that we have a place for visitors to the plaza to sit, to put their bike, to eat and drink and enjoy themselves, and also, again, some greenery and additional parking, which we've been able to design and add 5 more spaces than currently existed. The only thing I'll add to that, and then either Mr. Darpino or whoever's on the board that wants to jump in here, as the county project was built and created, again, it does look wonderful. There is an area at the very west end of the Knott Street construction at the intersection of Knott and Clifton Park Road, where 4 parking spaces were built and created. 2 of them truly are unusable based on the ability to park cars on the Clifton Park Road side. And a 3rd one now would require anyone in the passenger seat or driver's seat, depending how you park your car of the vehicle, to open your door and actually step out into traffic. So I would state that 3 of those 4 parking spaces really are not usable for anything more than advertising vehicle for tenant. And that's where we're at currently.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nicky. Dave, you want to go ahead or?
Sure. So I think the package that we received is moving in a really, really good direction. I like a lot of the visual items that were added here, and the description was very good. A couple things I just wanted to get some clarification on from Mr. Nicky is the bike storage in the rendering is along Knott Street, yet on the plan, would that be regulated to basically the little bump out that kind of goes into there you go, right there, right into that peninsula?
What we were looking at, and well displayed on that drawing, again, depth perception on that drawing is sort of the limitations of the skills of the person that I've been working with, that we would actually not utilize that little bump out there. That area is not utilized in our drawing. The meat of that space, if you will, the crosshatch space, would be subdivided into 3 areas, one that would have bicycle rack, one that would have outdoor dining area, and one that would have benches just for seating of guests who are not participating in outdoor dining.
Okay.
And when you look at that drawing that was just up on the screen, it actually doesn't go out into Knott Street. It really simply is trying to create a visual that displays everything so that people can see them. Just to put a rack with no bicycle there, or to have it sort of just off beyond the planters, if you will, it really didn't show up well. So that's why you're seeing it as you're seeing it.
Okay, that's good. And I think one of the other good things that you had in the summary was that the area that would be to the left of your takeout window is also going to be considered community or shared space where the benches are. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think it's no surprise to anyone in this board that we have a lot of people who walk to this plaza. And at present, whether you have a child with you or whether you are not able to go from point A to point B without stopping to have a seat, that just doesn't exist for this plaza. So we're, as the applicant, we've stated in our proposal that we'll maintain and clean it, obviously, but we do think that the public would like someplace to be able to sit down, and you don't have to be a patron of our establishment or any other for that matter just to come and have a seat.
Would that be just regulated to the west end where the benches are? Or say at 9:30 in the morning, if you had your tables out, could people sit in your area?
They could. I just can't tell you that those tables would stay out necessarily. That, what stays out and what comes in at the end of each evening is still a bit of a to be determined. But I would tell you, as long as we're operating in an environment where there's no vandalism or theft, if we're not operating, I see no reason why we wouldn't allow somebody to come and sit. If chairs start disappearing, obviously, then we'll have to make other arrangements.
I was going to say one thing, be nice, you mentioned 3 different areas, the community area, the service area and the bike area. Could you have lines drawn on that drawing that signifies those areas? Would be nice to point those out.
But the reason it's not done at this point in time is we haven't gotten so far as to figure out the length of the benches, the distance between benches, the size of the tables, things of that sort. But those really will dictate it. I did put the description, the either range or approximate number of benches and number of tables. But the actual amount of square footage within that area really is something that
or just
is very difficult to determine exactly until you have the actual equipment.
Yeah, it could be just a squiggly line that says approximation of where each is or whatever. But, I mean, we're going to have another public hearing, the planning board, because this isn't a modification or an expansion of the special use permit that was granted. So, that would be nice to have on the drawing when we have the public hearing. And also we'll make a recommendation to town board, and they're going to have to update the special use permit that was previously issued. So again, another public hearing, as you know, Mr. Nicky, so you've been through a couple of them already. So the more information, or even if it's an approximation, would be helpful to get us to that point. All right. The only comment I had looking at the site plan was the last parking space right along the front there. Or I guess it'll be all the way to the far left or to the north. That one right there.
Okay.
It just seems awkward. I mean, even if it's striped, it seems awkward there. Wouldn't that be a better spot for like a end curb where, just saw at the, what do you call it, at the gas station there where maybe there was a planning or something to delineate the roadway? Because, you can see people, cutting that short, I mean, I'm talking about giving up a parking spot, which I hate to do, but
sure.
I'm
open to all suggestions that relate to this parking space that you've noticed runs into the same issue as we have right now, in that, let's say you're driving head into that parking space. When the driver opens their door, they're opening it towards traffic that's driving through.
Yep.
So even if we kept that parking space area, but didn't allow someone to park, whether it be through some sort of a hard apparatus, or whether it just be through,
landscape
making
island or
a
something.
loading area, something to that nature, that would be fine. I did want to mention 2 things. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just with that picture that was just up. Part of the reason that it's designed this way, other than the fact that it makes use of what is something of I think somebody said wasteland or no man's land with the last presenter. That's truly what we have right now. As you'll see there, if you are driving eastbound on Knott Street and make a left onto Clifton Park Road, you are using Crescent Road right now essentially as like an Indy 500 off-ramp so that you can circumvent the intersection at Knott and Balltown Road. People are just cutting through there at whatever speed they feel they want to do. This configuration is going to make them actually make a left-hand turn followed by a right-hand turn, as opposed to just taking off as soon as they turn onto Clifton Park Road and cutting through.
That's why I say if there was something that last parking spot that would, because if there isn't a car there, they're just going to cut right across the parking spots and continue on
Sure.
their way. The other thing I talked to Mr. Henry a moment about this today is the parking analysis. What we had before and what are we going to have after this is all done. I guess that still isn't clear to me, because I think we need to use the as-built, the county as completed versus what we got here. I think those are the only 2 numbers that really count in this general vicinity, a property, I guess, owned by Langs, which I guess is shown here. What do we have there now and what are we going to have when it's done?
Sure. And I would tell you, I spoke with Mr. Henry as well. I've had, and everyone I've looked at it with has had significant differences in what they've come up with in terms of what the actual parking was before and is now, especially when you look at some of the numbers that were included both before and after the county's construction project.
Yeah.
What I would say is, based on the current configuration, we're adding 5 parking spaces by any measure, or 4 if we were to lose that last space that you just mentioned, Chairman Walsh.
Yeah.
The total number for the plaza will be much clearer now because things are striped and clearly easy to figure out. But I do believe that there was a change in the number of parking spaces in the co-op lot.
Yeah,
I know
see, that's why I didn't
been
want to get
added.
that deep. I just was looking at right around here, what do we have after the county project? And what do we have?
Oh, sure. So I'm sorry. We go from 12 to 17 by changing to this configuration. We add a 5 or 4 if we don't keep that last space on the end. So
I just asked Clark I don't have the county, we don't need to pull it up now. I just asked Clark to verify that, that's all.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Because, yeah, obviously any improvement and anything that helps delineate the traffic is a great improvement here. But did we get some feedback from, I guess you'd already talked to the highway department, and I guess they weren't concerned about backing out because it's not street, is what I heard, is that?
Yeah, they didn't object to the plan. I heard much more strongly from them that they really dislike the 4 parking spaces that the county built, actually. They actually asked the county not to build them.
Yeah.
They really don't like the ones that if you pull in, the headlights sort of shine across Knott Street. So they would like for them to not be like that.
Yeah, and that's what the proposal is. We agree with that they were, yes. How about the police with the configuration? Is that going to them?
We emailed it to them, but Clark can jump in here. I did not see comments from them, so I will double check on that.
Because I think what we need enough for is that we're comfortable that in general, we're happy with the plan so that we can at least call for the public hearing to keep this moving forward, Ms. Nikki. So I think that's what we need to focus on, right?
Yeah, the one other thing was the addition of the 8-foot sidewalk along the building, I think is great. And then connecting it to a 5-foot sidewalk on the angled side. There's in that area right now, which is pavement right up against the building, I believe you have a basement access point through a metal door, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, there's a curb around that. I'm thinking that as part of this implementation, having some sort of temporary barrier that would not be permanent, that would stay out, but when you have those doors open, would be a barrier system, whether they go in some holes and slots, that when you're taking a delivery or moving materials in and out, that's simply put up because now that's in the public pedestrian right of way.
Yep.
Call it a traffic.
Well, what I would say, we would, our hope would be, right now we currently put up, when we have those doors open, we're taking deliveries to utilize that space. We have some yellow plastic, I don't know what they call them, signage, for lack of a better term, that we put up. What I would propose that we do is put a couple of eye hooks just into the side of the building, into the mortar joints, and be able to put out 2 posts that are temporary as well when it's open, and connect some chain that's there. I would say that, though that area is open and used usually Tuesday and Friday mornings for an hour or less time. So putting something that's going to be a hole in the ground to put a pole in permanently, whether it's, for the purpose of those 2 hours, might be a bit of overkill given how much that space is used. We do have basement access from the interior of the building, so it's not necessary that we use that. We just use that space because it sometimes is more convenient than carrying items into the building and then going downstairs.
The idea of the chain with the eyelets as you need it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
It's reversible. You can block off pedestrian traffic. They'll be able to navigate through the seating area. And then if it's an hour or so, I think that's a good solution.
Yep. Yeah, part of your process for deliveries, yep.
I have a couple questions. This pushes the parking out closer to the road. And I'm wondering if we're running into any right-of-way issues with that. And if there's going to be enough room before you're actually in the travel lane, where maybe the smaller vehicles can actually get some idea of what's coming before they actually pull out into the travel lane. Because
Sure.
right now, it's a little difficult to do it. Because I parked over there and I had larger vehicles on both sides, and it was a little tricky to do it with sensors and all. But there was enough room that I could back out somewhat and really get a lay of the land. With this
Sure.
design, I'm not sure that's going to be true. And for all those
Well,
people
what-
who don't have sensor systems, that's critical.
Okay, what I would tell you, if you take a look at the design, just near where the handicap spot is, MJ Engineering put in a dimension that there's about 7.5 feet or just over 7 feet between the back of the parking space and where the street line would be. I would tell you that we don't even have that amount of space behind cars as it sits right now, because people essentially are driving on a diagonal with no striping, no street lines. They can come within a foot or two of a vehicle if they want to. And also because of the nature of the temporary barricade that we have now, it does create a little bit of an area where it's a little more challenging to be able to see. I would tell you that this drawing is still pre-existing, non-conforming. And it's a slight improvement, but it's for those people who need more space to be able to back up. I would strongly encourage them to park on the other side of the building.
And it happens there's less parking on the other side of the building than there used to be, and it's harder to get in and out of.
And again, I've had this conversation almost nightly with our patrons. We've been there, this is just about 6 months. I have never at any time of day, morning, afternoon, evening, come across one patron who wanted to frequent the plaza and could not find a parking space.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been there when that's the case.
You couldn't find a spot to park in the co-op lot or on Knott Street or Clifton Park Road, and so you just kept on driving?
Didn't check the co-op lot because that wasn't near where I needed to be. But yeah, there has been at least one occasion when there was no open spot. And there's problems with the new parking, really not relevant to this. It's just that there are fewer spots on there. And most patrons are going to want to park somewhere close to where they're going. So saying to go up in the co-op lot doesn't really solve the issue that thoroughly, that well.
No, there are always going to be people who feel that I need to be able to park within a few feet of the business.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, they're not entitled to that. That's why the walkway was created from the co-op lot to the plaza. That's why this improvement was done beyond safety, so that people had access. They have access. They just need to choose to use it.
It gets better.
All right,
But
the
That's, the real concern is there an issue with going that much further to the road and parking in the right of way?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing it, but this is making it.
I'll double check with police and highway where you could kind of have a sense of where the talked. I think that the catch basin was kind of a so I think it would be useful to have a meeting with the police and highway. But one question I had while you have, engineers and traffic engineers looking at it is, do you think it would be useful to add a fog line there? You know how the curb comes around, would it be useful to put a fog line there to delineate that kind of the actual road of Clifton Park Road?
I love that idea. In fact, it was mentioned at the site meeting, and the fact that it doesn't exist now is sort of beyond me. I think it's something that the highway department could do in about 20 minutes on a Tuesday morning.
Well, could you have MJ look at the road width though? Propose where one or two, well, if you would do it on the other side, like where they would fit, because I'm just not a fog line expert, and I'm actually not, there's only I think one road that the town has a fog line on, which is Knott Street East. So I'm just wondering if they could look at it and see if they would recommend putting one there and where they would put it by the dimensions of the road.
Sure, I can ask them. I imagine it would be on the street, like the line, right, where the street line ends, based on the width from
Yeah.
Clifton Park Road going east.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
But,
we could
you know,
see
I
that-
don't know the standards. Like there, you know, there might, you know, you might have to have, you know, I just don't know the
whatever.
standards.
And if we could have that in relation, you know, show it, and we could see the distance between the parking and that might address some of my concern. I think I know what you mean by a fog line. I
The-
don't
the
think
white
that's
line?
term.
The white line.
Yeah, that's fog line's not the term I know. I can't come up with the one I do know, but yeah, okay. We're talking the same language, thank you. Yeah, I think that would help the situation.
And I also don't know, like, if you have a fog line, if you have to have the. I don't know any of that. Like, if you can
mean a
have a
center
white,
line?
you can have a white line without having the yellow. It would just be really cool if you could ask them what the, you know, if there could be road striping there, and you know what it would look like if they put it on there.
One of the other things I like that the rendering does, and it's just an observation of the county's project versus where this one's headed. You know, the side of Knott Street with the businesses doesn't have any street trees on it. It's got the sidewalk, it's got the nice delineation, but it lacks some street trees. Here, where you have those planters, I don't know if there's an opportunity to maybe introduce a couple street trees. Maybe they replace some of the planters because of the way that they're spaced. Just kind of where that may be something that you can incorporate in that like green zone that you've delineated.
I would love to see more greenery in whatever form it is, just again, so long as it's, you know, doesn't obstruct the ability to see the facade of the building.
Right.
Why would we not put that would act as barricades?
This one?
The one in the
one on the
corner that we're saying gets cut off by people.
Well,
coming
that
onto us.
was my question earlier.
Why couldn't we put a physical barrier
Yeah.
that is intentional to be, you know, make the traffic aware they have to turn right before they turn left?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
Why can't we
Use
do
that
that?
spot to, but they can. I think we asked them to take a look at that already. Right.
A built up concrete
Curb.
barrier
Yeah.
with the
With
ability.
a street tree.
Yeah, just like in the or in the gas station, that one spot on the end and.
Yeah,
and
maybe even
Antwerp.
more pronounced.
Yeah, that's what they
If
did
the car
there.
ran into it, it would stop the car.
All right. Yeah, well, have them take a look at that. Mike, Dave, do you have anything else?
No.
I mean, we got some open items here, but the goal again is to get as close as we can get this so that we can go forward with the public hearing, right? So one of the questions I have is, you know, who's responsible for all this, Mr. Nicky? Maybe that's the $1 million question, huh? Who's taking?
Well, I wouldn't put the price tag that high, but that's a great question.
Yeah.
In terms of the equipment that you see here, we're willing to do that. We're willing to provide the benches, to provide the planters, the tables, the chairs, the bike rack, all that at our own expense, and including the regular maintenance. It's come to my attention, and I don't know if anybody else on the board has heard this, that the Metroplex apparently has some plan or intent for this area as well. That's all I know. Does anyone have any information related to that they might have or be able to share?
I believe Metroplex is looking at paving like the alleyway and just providing some drainage and paving improvements to that whole area because it hasn't been touched in like forever. But what we can do is make sure that Metroplex has this plan and it's coordinated with what the paving. I don't think this is a huge overlap, but I can make sure that they have it.
So that would be the paving that we're seeing in this rendering would be done by Metroplex.
If Metroplex would, so potentially over here, we could discuss with them like I think the timing might be hard because Metroplex is getting close to finishing. Schenectady County is getting close to finishing that project,
Right.
But they may be able to pave this part to look nice, and then this part might have to get updated because I mean, I don't know, you don't have materials called out. I mean, it looks like there's a difference in materials between this area and the asphalt. Like, looks like it's concrete. I don't, you know, which is really, really nice. I'm sure that's extremely expensive and probably not the actual proposal. But it would be nice to see some kind of delineation of materials between this area and the pavement.
It would be. It's not something budget-wise that we're in a position to do as a 48-seat restaurant. I would tell you the delineation you see there in terms of color is really to show one area separate from another. We are more than willing to put the parking bumpers in as well. I'm glad to hear that Metroplex is looking to pave because the area, which was already littered with potholes after being used for this construction, is just one after the next throughout the area. It's a gravel pit at this point in time. But to answer Chairman Walsh's question, everything you see here in terms of parking curbs, benches, tables, chairs, bike rack, green space, or planter boxes, lighting, etc., are all things that we're willing to provide ourselves.
All right.
Yeah, so I'll provide this plan to Metroplex. I think it wouldn't, you know, like if it had planning board approval and town board approval, I think Metroplex would probably be more than willing to help.
Yeah.
I just think the timing might be hard.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be funny here, but obviously, you know, you got a good proposal here, and we go through the process. You know, is it just a wish and it goes on paper and sits there, or we're going to do it? You know, so that's kind of.
Oh, of course. I would tell you that hopefully, in the actions we've taken previously and currently through the planning board, I wouldn't waste your time in trying to put something in front of you that we weren't going to, you know, make actually happen. So I'm not looking for funding from anyone else, but I would tell you that, you know, for clarification purposes, what you're seeing here in terms of two colors between the ground closest to the building and the ground out in the street is for the purpose of being able to delineate with your eye where one area is.
I appreciate that, Mr. Nicky, and thank you for doing all
Not
this.
a stamped concrete, sure.
Yeah, appreciate it, and thank you for doing that. But I think we need to you know, who owns what, right? So, you know,
Yeah,
we need a list
and-
of who owns what and who's going to do what. So,
Yeah, so I think like Rob and Elena would probably work on if it was approved, you know, through the special use permit, it would obviously require a maintenance agreement to be signed with the town.
Yeah.
MJ is a firm for the
County.
county work.
Yeah.
There too, right? So I'm sure they can, well, not I'm sure, but can they possibly facilitate something?
I mean, Tommy, I mean, he could ask them to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
As part of the special use permit at the town board level, it would definitely require a maintenance agreement. Yeah. And the other thing I think just that we would need is, I know that you don't know the end result of the furniture, but at least approximate seat count, just so that we can understand.
exactly.
Were you going to go there?
Yep. No, you're right. Exactly. I mean, you kind of summarized, you know, the different areas of bicycle. But I think when we get to the point where we're going to have a public hearing, that's the thing that's of interest to, potentially of interest to the public. You know, approximately how many seats you're going to have there. You mentioned, I think, that you would turn the lights off an hour before closing time. So we need to reiterate your hours of operation. Is there going to be music outside? You know, things along those lines. So just, you know, you don't have to answer that now. Just if have those, you know, those thoughts and lay that out, because that's the kind of stuff that, you know, you know, makes the public hearing more valuable. Okay.
Sure. And I'm happy to answer those questions now, or I know it's a long meeting, so I won't do that if you want me to.
And the other thing too, Mr. Nicky, it's an opportunity, if this has got to go back to the town board, take a look at the conditions from the special use permit. Is there something there that you think you would like to modify or request a change to? It's an opportunity to take a look at that previous approval also.
Sure.
All right.
And that raises my other question. If we've got all this additional outdoor seating, does that change the parking requirements?
Yeah, we'd want to know what the seating was. I mean, so parking is usually calculated by square footage, but I guess we could look at it in multiple different ways.
Okay.
And if we don't have a way of handling that, we should probably come up with one.
Mm. Well, outdoor seating is definitely different than indoor seating, though, right? Because
And it's seasonal.
seasonally,
Yep, it's seasonal.
and like, I mean, Starbucks, like they were like, oh, we're taking away all this indoor seating, let's put all this outdoor seating, but it's not that useful to the people who want to go to Starbucks and sit on their computer
Especially
and
weather
drink
dependent.
coffee. So, I mean, like we'll look at it, and I think it's really valuable to know the approximate seat number, but it isn't calculated in the same way as an indoor seat would be, I think.
I think that also the seasonal nature of things really encourages people to ride bikes and walk, which is why we put the bike rack in.
Yeah, I mean, I personally really like it. I think it's really important to have those outdoor gathering areas, and it was something the county couldn't provide because the county wasn't allowed to go outside the county right of way. And I think it does solve a no man's land space. So I do really like the gathering areas, and the bike rack is a great idea. And I like the outdoor seating. It brings life to the street, and it complements,
No, I think it could be nice. Right? That's why you probably got so much positive feedback from your customers. It's desirable, and we understand that.
So in terms of the questions you have relative to seating and materials and things of that sort, is that something that I can provide to the town planner?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, get some estimates. So just we have a magnitude, so we understand, how many seats and.
Sure. And then the next step is a public hearing, you're saying?
Yeah, well, let's take, if you don't mind, I'll go through the open items that I have and see if I missed something.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
I tried to take some notes there. So we talked about safety around the point of delivery, and you talked about putting some chains up, which is fine. Just have a process for any head of deliveries so that nobody falls through the basement delivery access point. We talked about that end spot, doing something with that, whether it's hardscaped or landscaped, something to delineate that so cars don't, cut across if there's nobody parked there. That would help to delineate that interchange between Crescent and, was it Clifton Park, right?
Yes.
Parking review, we'll just get an update on that, including the comments we just heard regarding do we have to have additional parking due to the outside seating? A bullet on your operations, what we just talked about, whether you're going to have music, lights off at certain time, so that when we go to public hearing, we have all that stuff available. You have it available, and we know what it is, all right? Take a look at the town approvals and the conditions that were associated with the previous approvals. See if there's anything that you'd like to talk about again. We don't have that included in the packet, but let's take a look at that. I'll look at that also, and the board should take a look at it. Police and highway input, review by both of those. Fog line, proposed location, and any other lines that are required per motor vehicle regulations. Have MJ Engineering take a look at that. The potential for street trees versus the planters. Looks like if we don't have the money and we're not going to be doing extensive renovations, maybe it's just going to be planters, but that's okay as long as they're done, as long as they look good. And who owns what? And that's what I got.
Mr. Nicky, I think one thing to keep in mind is 1501, the homeowner at 1501 for Clifton Park, right? Keeping him informed to the best that you can, because he'll come to the public hearing as he did in May.
Yeah, Richard, and we've had dialogue even since the last hearing. Yep.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Did I miss anything or any other questions from the applicant and the board? I'm trying to move it along, but we got a good one tonight. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nicky. Appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you.
So the next I follow up and then a public hearing.
Yeah, you follow up, I think, and then I think we're ready to call for a public hearing. But again, it looks like we're talking probably construction or operation is going to be next year, right? I mean, you're okay for temporary now until you close sometime around the end of October.
Yeah, no, we don't anticipate making any change to what's existing right now, which is temporary. I just actually would like to figure out the timing, because the best time to buy outdoor seasonal seating is during the winter when nobody wants it.
We'll get there as soon as we can, provide the information, and we'll hopefully at the next meeting, we're close enough to call for the public hearing.
Okay, so we have another meeting for another discussion item.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Nicky. All right, and where am I? Next up is 424 Balltown Road, and that's the Five Below department store, and that's application for signage. And I'm going to recuse myself from this, and Mr. DiArpino is going to cover.
Okay. Do we have anyone representing the applicant here? online?
Karen Katz, Saxon Signs, representing the applicant.
Okay.
Or applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. Did you want to give us a brief recap of the project and the signage application?
Five Below is just taking over the Old Party City storefront at 424 Balltown Road. They're replacing the signage on the front of the building, the tenant panels on the freestanding sign, and the underhanging sign by the walkway. Everything is basically the same size for size, and within the design patterns of the other storefronts in the shopping center.
Okay. So sign number one, which is a front elevation sign, is in compliance. That would be the large, we'll call it the marquee sign that's on there. That's been given other precedents in the plaza. So that one is sign number two, which we'll call is under the canopy. We're going to discuss in a little bit more detail. That waivers, one for the actual size, and then I believe the second is because it is a secondary sign. And then signs 4, 5A, 5B, and 6 are temporary signs that are going to be scattered throughout the property and on the facades. So why don't we start with sign number 2, which is the blade sign. So previously we've had other storefronts in this area have applications for blade signs, correct? We had correct. Yeah.
Burlington.
And I think we had limited that to a pretty small sign. So I guess what is the rationale for having a sign this large here at this location?
They're requesting the 5 square foot signage, visibility.
So from a visibility aspect, I would say that where this store is located, the marquee sign is pretty visible. This isn't a large pedestrian location area. So having it similar to like a Stuyvesant Plaza where there's a large covered walkway, it just doesn't seem to fit what we have going on in the rest of the plaza.
And that, between Burlington and Untitled Road, are there any blade signs in that, right?
I think we normally say no to blade signs.
Yeah.
I actually normally say no, but maybe there is one over in Price Shepherd Plaza.
Yeah, we'd have to probably go take a look at that just to confirm.
But in all honesty, just to reiterate what Mr. Harpino said, I don't think you need a blade sign here.
I mean, honestly, if it's a point of contention, I'll put it out. Not worth making it an issue over something that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good solution.
In just the location where it's perpendicular to the glass facade, it's not going to be seen directly from the building as opposed to where the marquee sign is.
I mean, let's make clear, the size of the main marquee sign is that big because of precedents and waivers.
Right.
It's also set very far back from Balltown Road, which is, I think, why it gets the waivers.
Right, understood. So, I mean, I am confident you're going to get good awareness of the store being there. Talk about temporary sign.
Okay. And then there's several temporary signs, one of which would be a placard sign put along Balltown Road, which is right by the large, what you call it, the large.
Talking sign number 3?
Yeah, sign number 3. What's the anticipated duration to having that sign up?
To be honest with you, I don't know, but in general, knowing other projects with this company that we've worked on, they have their CO already, which I believe they have. They're going to be open within a few months, so I would say under 6 months at most.
You give Burlington how long?
We'd have to look. Clark did remind me Maurice's does have a blade sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
knew there was one. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's very small, isn't it?
Mm.
We can check that.
Burlington did have very specific time windows for their coming soon signs as well.
I think if we saw appropriate time, when
That blade sign, I mean, there really is no need to it, so I can't see that being any friction. And if I'm gonna recommend them just to remove that straight out, so I would say that problem is squelched or questioned.
Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can pull the Burlington stuff really fast. Hold on.
Okay, so so we have the we'll call the placard sign, which is out on Balltown Road, and then the other signs are basically like corner stickers that go on to other banner type signs, which are going to be located on the front facade area. I guess the question is the intent to have that grand opening sign up for only a brief duration?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And I think there's definitely a time limit, correct, Laura? It's like 6 months or something that you can have a banner sign of that nature. Oh, is it 2 months? Okay.
And then just to clarify on the sign 3, where we were looking at the kind of the freestanding sign and those little yellow corner signs, those little yellow coming soon now hiring are temporary sign as well. They're removable vinyl that are going to be placed on the actual tenant panel.
And
they're already listing 45 days on these drawings. Is that correct? It seems like all temporary signs.
Okay, yeah, because then down here it says.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And so therefore, you're also looking for a waiver of 29 square feet and 64 square feet on those banner signs. Okay.
The temporary banners.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Did you run? We request this of all the applicants that we have. Did you do a drawing that would show the banners in a compliant square footage and then compare it to what you propose here?
No.
Okay. We would like to see that just for the reasoning that if it is too small, it doesn't read clearly, it's a good visual for us to look at the board to compare the two. And then in order for us to grant the waiver, we would have something to compare apples to apples to.
Right.
And what is the compliant temporary banner size?
Correct. You have the one drawing, which would be drawing
signs 4 and 5.
Correct. Signs 4 and 5. And in the lower right-hand corner, if you showed the same elevation with this one next to a compliant sign, it may read that it's much smaller and it won't work.
Yeah, no, I was just asking what would be the compliant size sign for a temporary banner. If you knew offhand, then.
There's 2 sections of code that apply. You're allowed like a special event sign for 1 month that can be 32 square feet, and then you're allowed I'd say that that's probably the one that applies, because then you're allowed a non-illuminated sign of advertising the sale, lease, or construction of 16 square feet. So it kind of depends. Like the special event is 32 square feet, lease or construction on the premises is 16 square feet.
So the coming soon would basically be the 16 square feet, and I guess the special events would be the other 2.
Yeah, like grand opening and now open. Those would definitely qualify as the special event signs. Yeah. So 32 square feet would be allowable, and you'd only usually get 1 month. So the planning board would look at the 45.
Okay.
And then, the placement of sign number 3, which is the one that would be on basically like a piece of plywood. We would just request that where that doesn't obstruct the visual lines of any other existing sign. So just case in point, don't Old Navy, PetSmart by placing it too close. Where the landlord has demarcated an area, you can have a sign of that nature where the posts go.
Good thing there's not a Dollar Tree in that store, then they would want it.
Any other observations or comments from the board? Okay. So basically, to recap, we're going to take a look at eliminating sign number 2 in its entirety, and then the location for sign number 3, just to confirm where that's going to go, so it doesn't obstruct anything. And then also the other temporary signs, just getting those into compliance and just doing a side-by-side comparison. I think those are relatively easy things that you can put together in a package, and we could have that ready for the next meeting.
That's just something I'm going to submit back to Clark.
Correct. Everything goes back to the planning department.
Okay, perfect.
Are we comfortable calling for a tentative resolution?
I was going to make a point, just a question. I've recused myself, but it's timing. When's the store plan to open? What's the schedule? They already have their change of tenant approval, so obviously.
I think.
What's the need date?
I do not know. I do all of the permitting for the company. I do some sales, but this is not my account, so I don't know their plan dates. And to be honest, usually we as a sign company, sometimes we have an idea, sometimes we don't. We just know what time they want their signs up by, and that does not always coordinate the date of opening.
I would recommend calling for a tentative resolution because we only have one meeting in September.
Yep.
So the timing between September 12th and October 3rd is significant. I meant to bring that up with not the Broken Inn as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with if you guys wanted to call for a public hearing on that, just because of the timing between the 12th and the 3rd.
I'm comfortable with that, but we would see this regardless, even if they revised everything to be applicable to what the code is without requesting any variances. We would still see this as a signage application, correct?
Yes,
Right.
you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I'm
either,
okay with a tentative resolution.
yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay, you all clear, Mr. Katz?
I closed the technicalities at the end of the meeting with the temporary resolution. Does that mean we're just going to be scheduled for the next public hearing?
Nope, sorry. I was talking about two different projects. You would be on tentative resolution for September 12th for approval of the signage, but in between now and then, you need to show the planning board what compliant signage would look like, and send that information to Clark.
Okay, but I would not, that would be in lieu of having to come and prep for it again.
Nope, you'll definitely have to come on September 12th, but we need that information ahead of time.
Yeah, no, it's prior to the 12th, which is the public hearing.
Correct, Mr. Katz. We would take a look at the current package that you have, also along with the code compliant signage package. That would be up for discussion, and based on that discussion, we would vote on, we would have the resolution ready.
Right. There's no public hearing for these signs.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's just, get the information into the planning department, and we'll have a tentative resolution drafted to, approve whatever you come with, and hopefully it's all compliant and good.
Yeah, but I heard the time frame is 45 days for these signs. That's what's written in the. It seemed to be what the board was comfortable with. Yeah, 45 days.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. And
okay, thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. DiRapino. We'll move along. Next item, 2837 Aqueduct Road, that's River's Ledge. Do we have anybody online tonight?
I don't see them.
No?
Mm-mm.
Well, that's okay. We'll make it quick so we can keep this moving along.
So,
Because really, there's nothing new to talk about. The zoning board of appeals grant the height variance for the project, so I think the next step is, they're going to work on their engineering and
Yeah,
work
we
on
need
their
revised site
architectural
plan.
design, and
Mhm.
they're going to keep moving. The only thing I would note is that the sketch shows a 3,000 square foot outbuilding that was included in the packet. The agenda says 2,000. I think it's a 3,000. I'm not sure which is correct. So, so we just take care of straightening that out. And that's the only comment I had. Because I figured there wasn't much to talk about, minimize
Yeah,
the minimize the white siding and basically move ahead with engineering and architectural review.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't see, was there any public comment at the zoning board of appeals meeting?
So there was a couple residents on Aqueduct Road that didn't want it to be 3 stories. And there was a couple residents from Plaza that did not like the white siding. I think that explaining sort of the 2-story, 3-story thing helped potentially with the first concern. And then the zoning board asked the applicant to work on the white siding. Like you guys understand, there wasn't that much they could do between the 2-story and the 3-story, but they did want to work on the things that they could work on.
All right, and there wasn't a condition, it was just an ask to the planning board or the applicant to take a look at the siding colors. And that's, so we'll take a look at that once they.
Yeah, because we heard that comment here, but the siding had already been ordered. It was post approval, but in this instance, they were hoping that they obviously haven't ordered the siding yet. So can you not do white?
I mean, just as a single building, it's just a huge win.
Yeah, with the reduction in footprint and the more green space and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, I think it's going to look good.
Yeah.
I'm
It's gonna
sure.
be tall though. It will be.
It will be, yeah, but
Okay, and thanks, guys. So we'll have a quick one on that tonight. We'll move forward since the applicant's not here. And next up is page 2, a tough night. 20, there's a note, yep.
Antwerp Plaza.
Yep, 2309 ShopRite Plaza, that's units number 307 to 308, an application for a tenant change to combine 2 spaces into 1 space for an Asian barbecue restaurant. And we have an applicant online tonight with this project. Do we have anybody?
Yep, right here.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Maybe first time we've seen this, could you just maybe introduce yourself and just talk about your proposal just for a second?
Yes, my name is Ping. So we are taking over the Thai Bistro and the Smash Burger space and put it in the Asian barbecue and hot pot.
That's good news, taking over empty space. So, we're always happy to hear that. And anything you want to say about your restaurant?
I think it's a great addition to the town.
Beautiful. Asian barbecue, and it looks like, and it should be a good size if you're taking over those two locations. It should be a pretty good size.
Yeah, yeah, about 150 capacity seat.
Is it a service restaurant or will it have like a buffet component to it too?
It's all you can eat. So the server will take your order, but bring as many as you want.
Yeah, that's great. You miss the other
Yeah.
place that used to be there.
So on that note, we're all clear with when the old Golden Phoenix. And they
Was
had a
where
whole
the
bunch of
Dollar
issues
Tree.
with the grease traps and all that stuff. That's all been cleared out and fixed.
Well, yeah, because Golden Phoenix was at the Dollar Tree. When Smash Burger came in, they had to do a different type of grease trap because of that particular issue. So it will need to have the engineering like double check that with grease traps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's really building permit stuff, all right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, they can
So-
work that out.
So since it's,
Yeah.
restaurant to restaurant, we don't need to really consider parking or anything. It's basically any signage that you may have if it's not code compliant, right?
It looks like it.
And I don't know if we have any details on the signage, and if not, you can submit those.
Yeah.
But it's really, like I said, outdoor dining, similar to, wasn't there some outdoor dining at one of those locations?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have outdoor dining already, but we're probably not gonna use it.
Right. Yeah, just clarify that on any of the submittals if it isn't already. 'cause I don't see anything regarding outdoor dining. Okay.
Yeah, on the right side,
Yeah, that was Smash
maybe
Burger.
about like 6 tables. One was Thai Bistro.
So there's no tables there. That's going away. Is that?
Yeah, the table is already gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to rush this. Parking and everything. I think it's pretty much if on the sign to make sure that gets to the planning department. If it hasn't already, it looks like it hasn't. Make sure that the signage is code compliant. Issues with
Yep.
the grease trap and any fit up, that'd be in engineering with the building permit and approvals along those lines. So I think if everybody's
Yep.
okay, we can call for a tentative resolution next meeting for the tenant change.
Yeah, 12, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since it's far, will there be anything,
等一下，
I'm sorry, in signage, will there be anything that's identifying it as, however you're gonna call it, all you can eat or buffet, whatever?
So all we got is what's here so far. I guess you're asking, is there any additional signage anywhere else besides?
no, just one. The front door, the main entrance.
Okay, great.
So
Yeah.
just as a, I don't know, just as a thought. So Smash Burger is on a corner. The Smash Burger
Yep.
is on a corner, and they had 2 signs, one that faced Balltown Road and one that faced Knott Street. So you may just want to look, because if you're taking over both spaces, you would be allowed to have this sign that faces Balltown Road, and you would also be allowed to have one on the corner that faces towards the Starbucks Knott Street. Just
Yeah, you got 2 facades on
Yeah.
basically 2 streets kind of
But
thing.
the, yeah, but the ShopRite Plaza, they have a big sign above the Smash Burger. So we're not going to put the additional sign on the other side.
Oh, okay.
That's your call. Okay. All right, so.
Thank you.
The signage is, again, something you need to submit it, the size and the lighting and some details on the signage. And we'll have a tentative resolution for the tenant change, okay, for next meeting.
Okay. Oh, next meeting?
Yep, yeah, we call for a resolution tonight. Next time we'll be on the approval, which would be September 12th.
Okay.
All right, and then after that,
All
you'll
right.
be able to get your building permit.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great night, guys.
Yeah, great. We're glad taking over some empty space. We always love that. All right, that's it for.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. 2309 Knott Street. Let's see. 2750 Balltown Road, site plan application, tenant change from the SI Group to Momentive Performance Materials. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us tonight.
And welcome to town.
Yes.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
My name is Bob McQueenie. I work for Momentive. I'm the project manager assigned to relocate our headquarters and administration employees from Waterford to Balltown Road. And I'm the program manager for the eventual construction of a new R&D facility. That's for much, further down the road. So this is this is a tenant change review, right? So we put our application in. Our intent right now is to occupy the property on the 12th of September. We will be relocating approximately 130, 140 employees at that time. Later, when we do the technology build, there'll be additional employees relocating. Give me 1 minute.
While you're looking that up, that's what's nice about the restaurants, right? Broken in and wants to have outdoor seating, and with this Asian barbecue filling the space, as we bring potential employees and grow in the area, there's more opportunities for them to have lunch in town versus out of town. So
I'm looking forward to that opening up.
yeah, especially the all you can
Can't
eat
wait.
part was good.
Our normal business hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There's always exceptions for people that want to work and get extra stuff done. We're not planning to make any internal or external changes to the property in the headquarters building. other than we're installing our IT network gear and our security system, but other than signage, eventual signage, right? No changes to our administration building. Our, eventually, you know, we're going through the design phase right now for our R&D building. For a new technology building, that will involve some demo of the existing structures of the building that was built in the 60s. But we're in the design phase. But we're early in the process. If everything goes per schedule and per plan, we'd look at occupying that space late fourth quarter 2024, first quarter 2025. When that's done. The proposed building, the square footage, the range is 12,000 to 15,000 square feet, depending on the configuration that we choose. We haven't decided that yet.
So the only concern that I have, we have to somehow address traffic on Ball Town. Given that the site has been shut down for more years, including COVID.
Well, if he's doing a direct tenant change, they're allowed to have the same amount of cars as the previous one. So we actually wouldn't be able to adjust traffic then. But when they come and if they're making use to the square footage and there is an issue, the planning board would have leverage then. But on a pure tenant change, they're allowed the same benefit that the previous applicant was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question really is, you know, do we know approximately how many employees were when it was fully staffed at SI Group versus here? Is this a lesser number of employees before they do the addition, or, you know?
From what
I guess I would answer your question, right? There's less employees and there's no issue, of course, you know.
Now, from what I understand from talking to SI employees that are still there, they're there until the end of this month, some for the technology people. If the question you're asking is how many employees were there when it was operational,
Yeah.
it was 180, 190 employees, according to SI's feedback. So we would be right around there, a little bit north of that.
After the addition or before?
I'm sorry?
Before or after the addition?
After the addition.
After
yeah.
the addition.
Once the administration side that we're targeting to start September 12th, it'd be 130 people. Once, you know, a couple years, 2.5 years later, it would be closer to 200. Once we relocate technology scientists.
Our code is actually based on square footage, right? So if
Right.
they're not changing square footage, yeah,
Correct.
even if the number of employees is slightly
Yeah,
different.
so we would have to follow-on application. It would be a follow-on application for any construction project, right? That would come through additional building through planning board, and that's when we do the evaluation whether parking was sufficient and, you know, whether you're lacking parking and whether there's a concern based on the increase.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with the application, right? But I do have to make a comment. So times have changed since, you know, SI was fully populated with daily employees. We have Rivers Ledge now, right? We've got Antwerp homes. So at some point, I would expect that we're gonna have to look at traffic.
Are you concerned that we might hit the 100-car threshold with their addition?
We won't.
Yeah.
Nope.
So if we're not going to, then it won't be a concern?
Well, it's not that it's not a concern. I just want to be really careful with tenant change versus him being open and upfront
Yeah, he's
about a
talking
new
about
building.
future.
Yeah.
He's talking about future.
Yeah.
I'll stop talking about it. But the point is that the entire area there is changed.
Yeah, we know that, you know, traffic is going to continue to be a struggle. We really welcome Momentive. I think the employees will learn very quickly how hard it is to take a left onto Balltown Road there. It's going to be sad. I live right there. Sometimes I let them out if it's safe, but it's a tough spot traffic-wise there.
It's improved, so.
Going left at certain times or head out, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're going to, when we bring the employees in, we've noticed that immediately is a left-hand turn out of that property is a long wait.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, we're going to have some discussions with our employees about how they line up on the exit when they're leaving the property. And suggest that people take a right and go around the.
Yeah, I mean, if you can drive right around that traffic circle.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, with the traffic
Leslie's
circle, just
favorite
side note, yeah, obviously we
infrastructure.
increase the flow. Flow is better, but that also makes it harder for people to block because traffic is
Yeah.
not stopped, you know?
Yep.
So,
Just pushes the problem somewhere else.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough exit out of there.
But,
E1 has the same issue because it's right on that crest of that. They both have big issues coming out of there. Yeah.
as far as a tenant change, you know, obviously it's administrative. Right now, are you going to be doing any research or any mixing of chemicals or anything before you do the new building? Is there going to be any research?
No, we don't. No, no, we don't. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
There's an existing about 8,000 square foot R&D building that we plan to maintain, but not occupy. When I say maintain,
Not utilize.
keep it tempered.
Yeah. Because that was my only comment is, you know, is that in the future, it sounds like you're going to have to address it. It might be beyond the scope of this board, but whatever you decide to do there, you may need to get updated permits for any air emissions from either EPA or NISDEC or whatever. But again, that's the future application. You're not going to go there now. We're just doing the tenant change and bringing the administrative people over. So.
Yep.
Could I just ask if this is characterized as a tenant change? Have you taken title to the property?
I'm sorry?
Have you taken title to the property?
Yes, we have.
Oh, okay, so it's so use change. We characterize it as tenant change. So you're change of ownership.
Yep.
Okay.
It's just change. It's change of ownership. Actually, it's the same use. Yeah. And tenant change, we just check to make sure that it is the same use, and that they still fit within the zoning. And the planning department didn't identify any issues with it.
Yep.
Are you keeping your same facilities in Waterford, or are you reducing your footprint there?
Are we keeping
your same facilities in Waterford, or are you lessening your footprint in Waterford?
We're moving approximately 200 employees from Waterford to here. The manufacturing environment is remaining as it is now.
Okay.
I noticed on your summary there that the.
Let me say that differently. The changes we're making now aren't impacting the manufacturing environment. I can't speak to what we might do in the future of operations there.
Said the normal hours are 8 to 5 for the admin staff there. They have flex hours, so, you know, that's one of the things that helps with the egress is if people, you know, leave at different times, so everybody's not queued to go at the same time. Do they have like different hours for the employees?
We haven't thought about that yet.
Yeah.
Have not thought about it yet.
But they just mention that because, you know, obviously if they stagger a little bit, then you're not all queued to try to pull out and then you get all that pressure, everybody behind you.
I feel
You know?
like GE does that.
Yeah,
Do they choose
even
that?
Capel has flexible.
Yeah,
you
Capel
know,
does too.
Flexible hours.
The agencies do it too. It
Yeah.
really helps.
Yeah, just because Balltown Road.
But anyway, just a thought. So we're here for tenant change. It sounds like it's straightforward. I mean, unless somebody has concerns, we can have the resolution for the next meeting approving the tenant change. If you do decide to go forward with the research facility, that would be a separate application and we'll address traffic and things associated with whatever work you're proposing at that point in time.
And that'll be to February.
You know, Mr. Khan and Laura, you know, welcomed you to the community. You know, this whole board does. You know, we're, again, just like we talked about the restaurant, reusing space. You know, SI Group's been here a long time. I know they're relocating to downtown Schenectady. We're glad to still have them in Schenectady County, but glad you guys coming over from Saratoga County to Niskuna. So we're glad to really have you.
We're looking forward to it. It's a nice property.
Beautiful location.
Very beautiful location. It really is.
Beautiful piece of property.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that this is a temporary sign that can just go to building permit, but this is what they're proposing to put up temporarily until they have the signage fully fleshed out with the.
It complies, Laura?
Right, so this complies with the temporary
There,
sign that they're allowed.
external lighting on it?
There are there are flood lamps. If you go to the next page, that shows the
Yeah, you can
location.
kinda see
There's a floodlight on this side and on the other side that would project onto that sign.
Like right here. Those are existing, so they're just gonna put a temporary sign up and utilize the existing lighting.
Oh, okay.
Just one little thorny issue. I heard the applicant say that she's proposing to make the change on the 12th, meaning it's on the evening of the 12th.
It's okay.
Just wanted to.
They can move in on the 12th. They're conforming. It's okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Clerk and I talked about that ahead of the meeting.
No. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the the temporary sign. I guess deeper details, I can just talk to you and Clark.
Mhm.
My assumption, I'm making an assumption that just like the folks before us need to come with a more of a, showing the details and the design of a temporary sign, and then go through.
Well, if again, this sign's compliant, then,
Yeah.
then you're okay.
They're in a different
Yeah.
zone district than you. But if you're gonna do your facade sign, your full facade signs and your permanent signs out here, the planning board would probably look at it.
I'm sorry, what's the, forget for the temporary sign.
Temporary sign is just a building permit.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd like to look at when you get to the point, whatever you're going to do in the future, signage on the property, if there's a large facade sign that you would see from the road or a different type of sign, we opportunity to take a look at that for, how it's lit and, the size and so on. So that's all.
We just started that process,
Yeah,
getting renderings and.
Yeah, we'll just get the tenant change done, get you in there, and then these are all things that we'll see down the road in the future.
Great.
All right, and I'll have the resolution at the next meeting for the approving the tenant change.
Okay.
All right. And again, thank you for sticking with us
Oh, thanks
tonight.
for your time.
We had a lot
It was
on our agenda tonight, so.
Yeah.
I guess it's first in is how it works, so it was a late, entry, otherwise we would have had. Yeah. First in, first out, yeah. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. All right. All right, thank you to the board. We had a tough night, so I'm going to make it quick here because it's late. Reports, Laura, anything special you need to talk about?
I did not have anything that I identified. Oh, well, you might actually have this in your report, but the gazebo got placed at Kelt's Farm today. Yeah, David had sent a map. I went out and looked at it. It looks good. I like the spot you picked. It was very similar to what the tree council wanted. So I think it's in a good spot.
Yep.
I'm happy.
I went over just
Approved it.
before the meeting and I walked over and stood in it.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
needs maybe some
Yeah,
landscaping.
yeah, once he
and
gets the
wildflowers.
dirt around it
It's
and
gonna
does
look
some,
nice.
cleans it all up, it'll be pretty nice. Yep.
I actually ran into Joel after work today. I drove up there and we walked the whole site. He agrees it's good.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I like it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys taking care of that. That was good choice.
All right, so if that's it for reports. Let's just, commission business, I'll just ask anybody has anything they want to fill us in on or any questions for the planning department? Does anybody have anything?
Follow up, anything about the appropriate signs on North Street at a particular building front?
Sorry, that's not ringing a bell.
Where one of the proprietors is claiming exclusive rights to some of the parking.
Oh, I did get that email. I'll have to follow up on that. Yes. The parking in front of the co-op is not legally owned by any of the businesses and cannot be claimed as this business only. So,
And that continues all the way down that whole
yeah.
set of building
I'm
structure,
not
yeah.
familiar. Just some signs went up that I'm not, that,
This is like parking for this business only. And
Yeah, and one parking spot is reserved for a property around the corner on Crescent.
yeah.
Yeah. And the signs are illegal and
Yeah.
they need to go away.
any other questions for Laura or Clark?
Just a real quick update. The comprehensive plan committee has started to meet monthly and we're just getting ready. Leslie's on the committee. We are looking at reviewing the neighborhoods and also coming up with basically our executive mission statement of what we're looking to do for the next 10-year plan and kind of come up with an outline for the next year.
One of the things that you might want to consider, if you haven't already, is having, sooner or later, you'll have notification to the public through the town webpage, comprehensive committee's work and so on and so forth. You might want to have a link where people could submit questions or thoughts. I know that we've had several this board about
We talked about
low-income
that.
housing, and I'd like to plan and look at cul-de-sacs and about emergency access and see what other towns do. And I would submit that personally, because, I think I talked to Ken or somebody, I think Half Moon or Clifton Park, they limit how many homes can go on a cul-de-sac
Well, we
without.
always did. And then we,
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's time to look at all that
Over
stuff.
that.
The committee to look at that, and make recommendations for zoning changes, if appropriate.
Yeah, our code isn't as strong on it as it should be, I feel like.
Yeah.
well, we had a policy and then we abandoned it.
It-
And
I think it's
I
just,
think we're gonna regret it. But
Okay,
Clark would gonna do the architectural review board summary real quick for David.
Let's save it till next time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't.
all right, Clark.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you, Clark. We love you, man. Okay, no other questions at all? Have a motion to adjourn then? Motion adjourned by Mr. Scrivby Tennis, seconded by Mr. Khan. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Yeah. I'm sure.